Chapter 119. Dragon Will Meteorite was a new skill that Mo Shi had comprehended after advancing to Long Nian Shi. According to the system, after a normal psychokinesis advanced to a psychic master, they would be able to comprehend the corresponding abilities based on their understanding of psychokinesis. Some were psychokinesis flying daggers, some were psychokinesis fists, some were psychokinesis binding. These abilities were equivalent to condensing psychokinesis into substance. Although it couldn't be seen, it could be felt. For example, psychokinesis flying daggers couldn't be seen by the human eye. However, they could pierce through iron and stone and were sharper than ordinary flying daggers. However, the power of these abilities formed by psychokinesis wasn't great. After all, it wasn't that easy to condense invisible psychokinesis into substance. However, as a Long Nian Shi, Mo Shi's psychokinesis was dozens or even hundreds of times stronger than ordinary psychic masters. Therefore, his dragon will directly condensed into a dragon will meteorite. It crashed down from a height of 10 kilometers. Even a powerful super-mutated zombie was directly killed. Moreover, not only did the super-mutated zombie's body die, but even its cells were swept by the dragon will in an instant and completely lost their vitality. This was also the reason why it couldn't be revived after being smashed into meat paste. The dragon will meteorite was just that ferocious and tyrannical. This was the essence of the dragon will. Mo Shi closed his eyes slightly and recalled the scene of the dragon will meteorite crashing down. He seemed to have comprehended something in his heart. At this moment, a system notification appeared in his mind. Frowny face, this place is a special location. You can sign in again. Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat. Sign in. Sign in successful. Sign in location, virus hive, sign in reward, hive consciousness, virus clone, one ancient map, Another map? Mo Shi said in his mind. With a thought, he probed into the system backpack and carefully checked the map. It was still an ancient map drawn on a piece of leather. On the map, the rivers and mountains of Wuxia were still marked. However, this map was obviously not as detailed as the previous one. Some rivers and mountains didn't even have standard names. On the map, 2 places were marked in bright red. Beside them were 2 traditional Chinese characters written in clerical script, Dragon Ruins. Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat when he saw the 2 dragon ruins. His harvest in the dragon ruins this time was beyond his imagination. Therefore, when he saw the 2 words, Draconic Ruins, it was as if he had seen his girlfriend. But then he frowned slightly. Based on the rough location of the 2 dragon ruins on the map, one was in Guhe province while the other was in Xian province. However, there were no specific locations marked on them. The terrain near the dragon ruins was also a little blurry. If he wanted to use these 2 maps, he would have to go to those 2 places to search for the dragon ruins. That would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Mo Shi couldn't help but complain in his heart. System, are you trying to increase the difficulty for me? The system was silent and did not respond. Mo Shi shook his head and ignored him. Let's talk about it later. Then, he checked the skill description in his mind. Hive consciousness, every virus hive has its own consciousness. The consciousness of all the mother nests in the world could be connected. The broodmother's consciousness can connect to any broodmother's consciousness and obtain information about the broodmother's surroundings. Mo Shi rejoiced in his heart. This skill was crazy. As he thought about it, he activated the broodmother's consciousness. The next moment, he could feel the broodmother's consciousness. The broodmother's consciousness was not as clear and changeable as a human's consciousness. The broodmother's consciousness was chaotic, but very simple. From the broodmother's consciousness, he could feel every zombie and mutated beast within 100 kilometers. At the same time, he tried to connect to other broodmothers through the broodmother's consciousness. Soon, his consciousness seemed to have reached the location of all the virus hives in the world in an instant. He could clearly feel the situation within 100 kilometers around all the virus hives. He could feel how many infected bodies were around them. He could know the strength of these infected bodies. In the entire Wuxia, there were a total of 10 virus hives. Around these 10 virus hives, there were a total of 3 super mutated zombies. One was level 3, and 2 were level 2. This made Mo sure secretly happy in his heart. Although he was only a level 1 hunter, with the bonus of Dragon Will, dealing with a level 2 super mutated zombie shouldn't be a problem. As for the level 3 super mutated zombie, although he might not be able to defeat it, he had the small success of Dragon's Shadow Step. If it wanted to kill him, it was basically impossible. So, in the entire Wuxia, wouldn't he be invincible soon? As long as he continued to sign in for a while, he would level up by 1 or 2 levels. Then in the entire Wuxia, he would be able to do whatever he wanted. After so many years, he was finally going to make it. This made Mo sure's mood very good. However, there was a coincidence that among the 3 super mutated zombies, one was in Xian province, and the other was in Gui province. It just so happened that the 2 provinces marked on the map had the dragon ruins. Sure enough, the system really wanted to increase the difficulty for him. However, with the sign-in system, this was not a problem. He withdrew his consciousness from the virus hive. Then he looked at the description of another skill. Virus clone, expel a part of the virus X from the body and create a clone. Mo sure had injected the virus X enhancer before, so his body naturally carried the virus X. According to the description of the system, he could use Dragon Will to expel a part of the virus X from the body. This part of the virus X carried Mo sure's genes. Under the stimulation of Dragon Will, its activity was greatly enhanced. It would continue to divide. In the end, it would form a clone that was exactly the same as Mo sure's original body. Of course, such a clone only had a body and no consciousness. However, Mo sure could separate a strand of his Dragon Will and inject it into this clone. In this way, he could create a clone with consciousness. This clone, although not as strong as him, but it could also reach level 10 psychokinesis and level 10 hunter. Among humans, it was also an invincible existence. This skill would definitely come in handy at certain times. After reading the skill description, he turned his attention to the outside world. Although the virus hive was damaged, it was not dead. If this virus hive was not eliminated, it would not be long before other mutated zombies would repair it again. And with the virus hive, he could continuously create more strong mutated zombies, and even super mutated zombies. Then there would be no end to it. Thinking of this, Mo sure's violent and domineering dragon will suddenly spread out. Like an invisible shock wave, it rushed towards the surroundings. Boom, the entire blood-red hive, under this shock wave, suddenly turned into pieces of debris. Flying in all directions. Flying a few kilometers away. Only then did they all fall to the ground. Those humans who saw this were all stunned. One must know that the hive was built on the entire huge stadium. Without even moving, the shockwave formed by his psychokinesis alone was enough to disperse the entire huge stadium. And the debris flew a few kilometers away. Was this still a human? Those psychokinesis were so shocked that they even forgot to breathe. Compared to this human, their psychic power was simply trash. It was not targeted at anyone, but all of their psychokinesis psychic power was trash. Chapter 120. Mo sure didn't bother with the hunters and psychics after he was done with his task. Instead, he turned around. He took a step forward and his figure disappeared instantly. Only 100-meter tall and 300-meter long dragon shadow was left on the spot. All the hunters and psychics present were shocked when they saw the giant dragon silhouette. This is, dragon? Oh my god, all the humans widened their eyes and opened their mouths slightly. In addition to the shock, they couldn't help but have the urge to worship. Some of the more timid ones didn't even dare to look up. Since ancient times, the dragon had been a symbol of mystery and power. Even if it was just a dragon shadow, it still made these humans feel terrified and uneasy. Until a few minutes later, the dragon's shadow slowly disappeared. The base leader was the first to react. Such a powerful human, could it be the mysterious elite in the base? But this was too powerful. After a while, he shook his head and said with difficulty, He saved us. We didn't even have time to thank him." Everyone heard this and felt regretful. The mysterious elite saved all of their lives, but they didn't even say a word of thanks. They shouldn't have. But they couldn't be blamed. The scene just now was too shocking for them. They were so shocked that they forgot everything else. At the same time, Immortal had already arrived 10 kilometers away. After the initial success of the dragon's shadow steps, one step could cover 10 kilometers. This feeling of moving like the wind and lightning was really good. As for the gratitude of the humans, he didn't expect it. He didn't want to save them in the first place. He just wanted to kill the super-mutated zombie. After living in the apocalypse for so many years, Immortal had already seen through human nature. Saving others didn't mean that they would be grateful to you. Most people would do anything in order to survive. Maybe if you saved them today, they would kill you tomorrow for a bottle of water. In the apocalypse, survival was the most important thing. As for the rest, it didn't matter. If he had to say who he wanted to save just now, it would be Hao-Ren. Previously, when strong mutant zombies came to capture people in the base, Hao-Ren came to find him first after he came back. Therefore, this time, he saved Hao-Ren's life, so they were even. However, Immortal had some doubts in his heart. Those humans had clearly been stabbed in the chest by the super-mutant zombies. Logically speaking, they should have been infected by the virus and mutated. But when he used the blood demon's eye to look at them, they were all fine. There was no corpse aura on his body. Moreover, in their species column, it also showed human. This was very strange. This was also the reason why he did not kill them on the spot. A moment later, he shook his head. Following the principle of not thinking about it if he couldn't figure it out, he emptied his mind. He quickly ran towards base C2. This place was 150 kilometers away from base C2. However, after reaching the small success stage of the dragon's shadow step, such a long distance only took Immortal 15 steps. However, it was strange that when one's speed exceeded the speed of sound, one would encounter a sound barrier. When breaking through the sound barrier, there would be a sonic boom. For example, when a supersonic plane broke through the sound barrier, there would be a sonic boom behind it. However, when Immortal used the dragon's shadow step, he did not seem to encounter any problems with the sound barrier. Nor did there be any sonic boom. Half a minute later, he was already not far away from base C2. His dragon's sight swept across the base. He discovered that in the base, countless houses had collapsed. Most people were hiding in their houses, not daring to go out at all. Clearly, this place had been destroyed by the super-mutant zombie. He took out the chameleon camouflage uniform and changed into it. His skin and camouflage uniform became the same color as the surrounding environment. Then, he quickly rushed towards the base. The base had been destroyed to this extent, so naturally, there was no one guarding the wall. Without the hunter and psychokinesis, they could not guard it even if they wanted to. Immortal easily rushed to the bottom of the apartment building. He looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to him. Only then did he slowly go upstairs. He did not even take off his clothes and directly laid on the bed. After working for an entire night, he was indeed tired. He closed his eyes and checked the evolution points he had gained from this night in his mind. With a glance, he discovered that his evolution points had unknowingly reached 810,000. He was only 20 million away from 100 million. He yawned and revealed a satisfied smile. He took out the virtual sentry tower and set it up on the top of the apartment building. A moment later, there was a light snoring sound. At the same time, in base C1, Yang Kong was lying in the hospital. His body had many fractures, and his lungs were pierced by broken bones. He was only left with half a life. However, compared to the injuries on his body, the trauma in his heart was obviously greater. He lay on the hospital bed, his entire body wrapped in bandages. Only a pair of eyes were exposed. This pair of eyes was staring at the ceiling. Without blinking. All the nurses and doctors would be frightened by his eyes when they came to change his dressing or examine him. He hated himself for not having the ability to protect his daughter. If he was still a hunter and had a genetic martial art, his daughter would not have been taken away. If he was still, however, there were no ifs. Reality was so cruel. He did not know how long he stared at the ceiling. Finally, someone walked in from outside the door. It was his neighbor, the head of the laboratory, Dr. Chen. Ever since they became neighbors, Dr. Chen had always had a good impression of Yang Kong. It was even a little like the two of them living together. However, Yang Kong was busy with work, and he was afraid that his daughter would not be willing. Therefore, this matter had been dragged on. Dr. Chen was also shocked by Yang Kang's eyes that were staring at the ceiling. A moment later, she shook her head and sighed softly. Yang Kong, this matter, sigh, you have to take care of your body. Maybe Xiaoyan is still alive and waiting for you to find her. Dr. Chen really couldn't think of any words to comfort Yang Kong. She could only give him some hope so that he could live on. After she finished speaking, she saw that Yang Kong did not respond. She could only divert Yang Kang's attention and talk about some other things. However, after more than 10 minutes, Yang Kong did not respond at all. His eyes never blinked. He just kept staring at the ceiling. Sigh, Dr. Chen sighed again. Then have a good rest. I will leave first. Yang Kong still did not respond. Dr. Chen sighed again, got up and walked out of the door. At this moment, Yang Kang's voice came from behind. Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen stopped in her tracks and hurriedly turned her head. Yang Kang's voice was weak and feeble. You once said that you developed a drug, stronger than the X2 virus gene enhancer. Dr. Chen knew what Yang Kong meant. She shook her head and said, the Super X virus gene enhancer is extremely unstable. After the injection, it can only stay awake for a period of time. After that, it will lose its self-consciousness and become an artificial mutated zombie. So we have already given up on that project. Inject me, inject me, inject. Although his breath was weak, Yang Kang's last two words were almost roared out. His eyes were already a little red. It looked a little ferocious. Dr. Chen's eyes were already wet. I also know that you miss your daughter. I also hope that Xiaoyan is fine, but I must save her. Just take it as I beg you, Yang Kong roared again. Dr. Chen reached out and wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. Okay, but I have to apply to the base chief to restart the project. Chapter 121. Base C1. After the base chief discussed with everyone, he agreed to Dr. Chen restarting the Super X virus enhancer project. Previously, they gave up on this project because they couldn't directly use living humans for experiments. If they couldn't collect more data, they couldn't improve the virus enhancer. But now, in order to save his daughter, Yang Kong volunteered to inject the Super X virus enhancer. They took advantage of the situation and agreed. Although they didn't think that Yang Kang's daughter was still alive. But this way, at least they could collect some data. The previous data and information of this project had been sealed. There were still a few finished Super X virus enhancers stored in the cold storage. Now, they just needed to find them and make some preparations before the injection. A day later, this enhancer had been injected into Yang Kang's body. A few hours later, Yang Kang's body underwent drastic changes. The injuries on his body, under the improvement of the virus, had completely recovered. His height had also reached 3 meters. Both his arms could transform into genetic weapons. Dual genetic weapons. According to the physical test data, the current him, whether it was strength or speed, was actually equivalent to a level 10 hunter. Even a slightly more daring prediction would say that his combat power had far surpassed a level 10 hunter. Of course, this was only when he still had his own consciousness. Not long after, he would become a level 10 artificial zombie with super strength. Of course, the laboratory held the control of the virus. If he wanted to attack humans in the future, the laboratory could use a tranquilizer gun to inject the Super X virus inhibitor into him. First make him lose his ability to move, then kill him. At this time, looking at Yang Kang's tall figure walking out of the laboratory, everyone couldn't help but be moved. For his daughter, he was willing to become a zombie. A father's love was like a mountain. In the past, they only heard about it, but never really felt it. This time, they really felt the weight of these 4 words. When Yang Kang walked forward, Dr. Chen couldn't help but follow a few steps. He shouted, "Yang Kang." Yang Kang turned around and looked at Dr. Chen. His eyes flashed. "Dr. Chen, what I owe you in this life, I will pay you back in my next life." Then, he turned around abruptly and leaped more than 300 meters. A moment later, he came under the city wall. With a light jump, he jumped over the city wall. He quickly ran into the wilderness. In Base C2. After midnight, Immortal woke up naturally. The voice in his mind said, "System, double the reward of Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Elixir." The system's voice quickly sounded frowny face designated reward, Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Liquid. Requires 10,000 evolution points. Doubling requires 100,000 evolution points. Signing in this time requires a total of 110,000 evolution points. Do you want to sign in? Sure, Motherf *Ker. The amount of evolution points required for the designated reward and the doubled reward had increased to 10 times the previous amount. Did it have to be so dark? But after thinking about it, he felt relieved. The effect of the Dragon Bloodline Modification Elixir was more than 10 times stronger than before. It was probably dozens or even hundreds of times more powerful. Since the cost of signing in would be 10 times more than before, he would still be profiting from it. Thinking of this, he replied in his mind, "Confirm sign in." Sign in successful. Sign in reward, 10 drops of Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Liquid. The reason why Immortal did not choose to strengthen the Dragon Will first was because it was too slow to strengthen. Moreover, with the current Dragon Will, he could walk unhindered in the entire Wuxia, but at least no human or zombie could kill him. It was enough for the time being. Therefore, he planned to increase his body's strength to level 10 before strengthening the Dragon Will. He took out a bottle of modification liquid from the system space and drank it. After a while, his body began to heat up. Now that he drank the modification liquid, it did not take 6 hours like the first time. In just 5 minutes, he had completely digested this drop of modification liquid. Then he began to drink the second drop. In less than an hour, all 10 drops of modification liquid were consumed. He could feel that his body was full of energy. Under the investigation of his telekinesis, he found that the strength of his cells had increased by a lot. With this speed, he estimated that he would be able to become a level 2 great hunter in at most 10 days. At the same time, the people in the base were in despair and panic. All the hunters and psychokinesis in the base were captured. Even the leader of the base was captured. And that super-mutated zombie was so powerful that it made people despair. It could attack the base again at any time. The people spent 2 full days in extreme fear and despair. However, on the third day, exciting news came. The hunters and psychokinesis who were captured had returned. Just like how they didn't expect the 30 ordinary humans to come back alive, no one expected the hunters and psychics to come back alive after being captured by the super-mutated zombies. A group of hunters hurriedly welcomed the hunters and psychokinesis into the base. While ordering people to bring them water and food, he also inquired about how they managed to escape. The hunters and psychokinesis looked at each other. In their minds, they recalled the human wearing blood-red armor and a dragon head helmet. However, they knew that even if they said it, these people would not believe them. Even now, they could not believe that there was such a strong human. The super-mutated zombie that they could not resist was smashed to death by the human's telekinesis. The entire huge stadium was blown away by the human's telekinesis. This sounded like complete nonsense. In the end, the leader of the base spoke. It was a mysterious powerhouse who saved us, and on the night of the heavy rain, he should be the one who killed all the strong mutated zombies. Also, he was the one who slaughtered more than 2 million zombies in the blood-red city and saved the 30 people. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. In that case, the mysterious powerhouse was much stronger than the hunters and psychokinesis. Not to mention other things, he slaughtered more than 2 million zombies in just over an hour. Was there any other human in the world who could do that? A hunter suddenly thought of something and asked. "Leader, you mean, the mysterious powerhouse is in our base and has been secretly protecting us?" The leader nodded. Based on his intuition, the mysterious expert didn't seem to be protecting the base or everyone on purpose. He was willing to give everyone some hope when they were in despair. Under such circumstances, the mysterious powerhouse was the best hope. I see. It's all thanks to the mysterious powerhouse. It seems that I have to go to the temple and burn some incense for the mysterious powerhouse. What incense? The mysterious powerhouse is not dead. It's better to set up a longevity tablet. In the following day, the news of the mysterious powerhouse spread throughout the base. This made the people who were in despair begin to cheer up. Moreover, someone actually went to the temple and set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse. Sure woke up early in the morning and wandered around the base. Walking around early in the morning every day, he felt refreshed. Along the way, he saw people passing by from time to time, and they were all going in the same direction. Sure felt strange. He asked an old man who passed by. "Sir, what are you doing?" The old man replied. "Going to the temple to set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse." Chapter 122. Go and set up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse and pray for him. Pray that God will bless him for a lifetime of good health. The old man said. Sure couldn't help but laugh. This was interesting. He immediately said, "I'll go and take a look." He already knew that there was a small temple in base C2 called Liaoyuan Temple. He once went there to sign in. In the end, he only signed a book called Yi Jin Jing. Don't get me wrong. This was not a martial art that could cleanse one's meridians and marrow like in wuxia novels. It was just an obscure scripture that was hard to understand. So Sure never went there again. When Sure arrived at the entrance of Liaoyuan Temple, he saw that there were already more than 30 people lined up. These people were almost all talking about the mysterious powerhouse. The mysterious powerhouse is even stronger than the super-mutated zombies. He's far stronger than a level 10 hunter. Yeah. Within an hour, he wiped out 2 million zombies in the blood-red city. He's not human. He's an animal. Damn, you don't want to live anymore? Sorry. I'm not scolding him. It's just an exaggeration. The man quickly put his hands together and bowed in all 4 directions. Sorry. Sure, on the other hand, found it funny. These people were already in despair, as if the end of the world was about to befall them. In the end, the mysterious powerhouse appeared and brought them hope. It was not strange that they were now setting up a longevity tablet for the mysterious powerhouse. But when he scanned it with his telekinesis and saw the name written on the longevity tablet, he was a little speechless. There were 4 words written on the tablet: Mysterious Powerhouse. It was a little too nonsensical. But thinking about it, these people didn't know what the mysterious powerhouse was called. Immortal followed the crowd and slowly entered the small temple. There were 2 monks in the temple. One had a white beard and looked to be in his 60s or 70s. The other was only in his 20s. When everyone saw the old monk, they all called him master. The old monk put his hands together and bowed to everyone one by one. Immortal watched for a while and felt that it was boring, so he planned to leave. But when he turned around, he suddenly thought of something. I seem to have heard that this old monk had stayed in your province for a long time. His heart stirred, and he immediately dismissed the idea of leaving. When most of the people had left, he came to the old monk. The old monk sized up Immortal from head to toe and said, "Benefactor, your tools are extraordinary. You are no ordinary person." Immortal was a little surprised. Could it be that this old monk really knew how to read fortunes? Or face reading? He shrugged and said, "I'm just a zombie keeper." The old monk shook his head. Liu Bei used to sell woven mats and Jianghu used to fish. It wasn't because of their status, but because of their manners. I see that benefactor is calm and composed. Every movement of yours is natural. He's definitely not immortal. Immortal chuckled. Dupe, dupe, dupe. He had never believed in fortune-telling or physiognomy. However, the way the old monk spoke made him sound like a knowledgeable swindler. Immortal continued to ask, "Master, I heard that you used to live in your province?" The old monk nodded. "I was the abbot of Qingzhen Temple in Fan's Pure Mountain in your province for 15 years. Immortal had heard of Fan's Pure Mountain. It was a famous Buddhist mountain. At the top of the mountain, above the sea of clouds, there were 2 floating temples. The 2 temples were connected by a bridge. To get to the 2 floating temples, one had to go through the 10,000 steps ladder. However, he was not concerned about that at this moment. He said again, "Master, you should know the terrain of your province very well." The old monk replied with a smile, "Although I rarely go out, I have read a lot of books. I know the terrain of your province very well." Immortal nodded. He took out the map and asked, "Master, I accidentally got a map. Can you take a look at this place?" This was a map obtained from the system. No one else knew what it was for. Naturally, there was no need to worry about someone snatching it. Even if they did snatch it, they wouldn't be able to walk so far in the wilderness to find the dragon ruins. The old monk took the map and looked at it carefully for a moment. He said, "The dragon ruins should be the cave where the legendary dragon lived." "It's all nonsense." Immortal nodded. "I know it's just for fun. I'm just curious about where these 2 places are." The old monk looked at it carefully a few more times and said, "I've never been to the one in the new province, so I don't know. But the one in your province should be near Fan's Pure Mountain." At this point, the old monk said with a smile, "I remember a legend about the dragon that I heard when I was the abbot of Fan's Pure Mountain." Immortal was interested when he heard that. The old monk asked the young monk not far away to pour a glass of water for Immortal. He reached out and asked Immortal to sit down. He also sat on the chair next to him and said, "You should know that there are 2 peaks at the top of Fan's Pure Mountain that reach into the sky." Immortal nodded. "One is Old Golden Peak, and the other is Red Cloud Golden Peak." The old monk looked up at the blue sky outside the door as if he was recalling the past. Legend has it that in ancient times, Fan's Pure Mountain was not called Fan's Pure Mountain, but Taming Dragon Mountain. In ancient times, there was a plague dragon that wreaked havoc in the world, and the people had no way to make a living. A powerful man suppressed the plague dragon with a mountain, and this mountain was called Taming Dragon Mountain. A dragon-suppressing nail was inserted into the dragon's head and heart. These were the two golden peaks later. It is said that in the Ming dynasty, the plague dragon seemed to be trying to escape and kept struggling. The mountain shook. Emperor Wanli ordered people to build 4 royal temples on the mountain to suppress the plague dragon. Mo Shi's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. He asked, "Master, is the plague dragon you're talking about a Western dragon or a Wuxia dragon?" The old monk was stunned by this question. Then he laughed. He shook his head and said, "It's just a legend. Don't take it seriously." Mo Shi also laughed. "I've been obsessed with these legends since I was a child. Master, please don't laugh at me." The old monk also joked. The Wuxia dragon is a kind dragon that creates clouds and brings rain to the common people. The Western dragon is greedy for pleasure, plundering gold and silver, and harming thousands of people. I think this should be a Western evil dragon. Mo Shi nodded in agreement. "Master, you're right." After chatting for a while, Mo Shi put away the map. He said goodbye to the 2 monks and left leisurely. The 2 monks walked him to the door and watched Mo Shi's back as he left. The little monk said, "Master, this guy is idling around. Why do you care about him?" The old monk said, "In this doomsday, everyone is afraid. They can't sleep peacefully and can't wake up peacefully. It's rare to see someone as calm and carefree as him." The little monk curled his lips and said, "He's just a pretentious prick." The old monk glanced at the little monk and said, "Are you talking about me or him?" The little monk hurriedly shook his head. "Master, how dare I talk about you? Of course I'm talking about him." The old monk didn't pay attention to the little monk anymore. He watched Mo Shi's back until he turned the corner in front of him. Then, he withdrew his gaze. He chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha. He turned around and entered the small temple. The little monk curled his lips and whispered, "He's kind." He also followed in. Chapter 123. Mo Shi returned to his residence and thought to himself. For the time being, he couldn't go to the dragon ruins in Brahma's pure mountain. He learned from the previous consciousness of the broodmother that the strongest zombie in Wuxia, the level 3 super mutant zombie, was near Brahma's pure mountain. Therefore, he planned to sign in for a while and raise his strength to a level 3 or even level 4 great hunter. When he could completely dominate the entire Wuxia, he would go to Brahma's pure mountain to take a look. In the next few days, he continued to sign in every day. When he was free, he strolled around the base. He thought that after killing the super mutant zombie, a large number of zombies around it, and destroying the broodmother, he could sign in peacefully for a while. He didn't expect that trouble would still come to him. On this day, the helicopter brought back a laboratory researcher from base C3. This made the base leader very happy. They were looking for people in various bases to build a laboratory. However, almost no base was willing to help them these days. He had no choice but to send some people to bring some supplies to other bases in exchange for a researcher. This was a woman who wasn't very beautiful but had a very good smell. What was the smell? The smell of body odor. Even if it was painful, he could still smell the body odor on her through thick clothes. However, the base was very welcoming of her arrival. Although the super mutant zombie almost destroyed the entire base last time. This greatly increased the difficulty of building a laboratory. However, after seeing that other bases were able to quickly strengthen hunters and psychokinesis because of their laboratories, they also made up their minds to overcome any difficulties and build a laboratory. Now that they could borrow a researcher from other bases, they were naturally very excited. This morning, Mo Shi stood on the roof of the apartment building and looked around the base with the blood demon's eyes. This was a habit he had developed after coming to base C2. There was basically no corpse aura around the base. After destroying the brood mother, the corpse aura around the entire base seemed to have decreased a lot. However, at this moment, his blood demon's eyes suddenly focused. Because he saw that in the base, in addition to the corpse farm, there was a new corpse aura. This corpse aura was more than 1,000 times stronger than the corpse aura of the more than 20 zombies in the corpse farm. Looking at this corpse aura, it was very likely to be a super mutant zombie. Mo Shi's heart trembled slightly as he thought of a possibility. He immediately went downstairs and headed to the research site where the corpse aura was. Due to the arrival of the female researcher, the base quickly started to build a laboratory. Xiao Di and the female researcher were busy at the construction site. When no one was paying attention, Mo Shi swept his blood demon eyes over. He found that the huge corpse energy that was comparable to that of a super mutant zombie was actually emitted from the female researcher. At the same time, the attributes of the female researcher appeared in his mind. Species, zombie, level 2 super mutant zombie, level 10 psychokinesis, PFFF. Mo Shi almost spurted out a mouthful of blood. This woman was actually a zombie. No wonder she had such a strong body odor. She had deliberately made it up to cover up the corpse odor on her body. As for the fact that this woman was a level 2 mutant zombie, he was not surprised at all. After all, judging from the corpse energy, this woman was definitely a super mutant zombie. What he didn't expect was that this woman actually had psychokinesis. This was the first time he knew that there was psychokinesis among zombies. But he understood after thinking about it. Psychokinesis had a strong consciousness. Even after turning into zombies, their consciousness wouldn't be weakened. So after being infected with psychokinesis, it was very likely that they would become psychokinesis zombies. Psychokinesis was almost always under heavy protection. Psychokinesis was rarely infected, so it was his first time seeing a psychokinesis zombie. But there was one thing that surprised him. This zombie turned out to be a level 10 psychokinesis. One had to know that the strongest human psychic was only level 6. Mo Shi did not expose this female zombie. He was a little curious. This super mutant zombie, pretending to be a human, mixed in with the crowd, what was her purpose? Since he had nothing to do, he wanted to see how she would perform. 11:00 at night. Mo Shi was lying in bed, waiting for the arrival of 12:00. At this moment, a figure quietly came to his door. This figure was none other than the female researcher. Her level 10 telekinesis probed into Mo Shi's room. She saw Mo Shi sleeping in the room. Her right hand turned into a half-meter-long claw. She scratched the door of the room. The 1 centimeter thick steel plate on the door was easily sliced open like paper, leaving a huge crack in it. The female researcher entered the room and found the bedroom. She saw Mo Shi lying on the bed, snoring softly. A cold murderous intent flashed in her eyes. Then her right claw turned into 2 sanguisurincus. One pierced Mo Shi's head, the other pierced Mo Shi's heart. Puff puff, with 2 soft sounds, Mo Shi's head and heart were easily pierced. A trace of excitement flashed in the female researcher's eyes. The tentacles continued to drill in and out of Mo Shi's body. Like 2 violent blood snakes, they drilled dozens of holes in Mo Shi's body. She didn't stop until she was sure that Mo Shi couldn't be more dead. She let out a low roar from her throat. The next moment, she turned around and fled out of the door. However, just as she reached the door, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Then her expression changed. She saw that at the door, a figure was standing under the moonlight, looking at her with a playful attitude. The female researcher's heart tightened, and she quickly used her telekinesis to investigate the corpse in the room. She saw that the wounds on the corpse were quickly healing. Even the head and heart were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The female researcher turned around and looked at Mo Shi outside the door. What was going on? What the hell? But there was no time to think. Her right hand instantly transformed into a sanguisurincus as thick as an arm, and stabbed towards Immortal. Although she was a level 10 psychokinesis, zombies felt that using weapons was not as convenient as using their own claws or sanguisurincus. So she used the sanguisurincus to attack first. However, when her two sanguisurincus were 1 meter away from Immortal, they hit an invisible wall. No matter how hard she tried, the sanguisurincus couldn't move forward even an inch. This made the female researcher very frightened. As a psychokinesis, she understood telekinesis very well. Telekinesis could only be used to control objects. When could it be used to directly defend? In order to condense telekinesis into a defensive barrier, one first needed an extremely large amount of telekinesis. Even she, a level 10 psychokinesis, was far from being able to do it. Secondly, one needed to have extreme control over telekinesis. This wasn't something that any level 10 psychokinesis could do. A thought flashed through the female researcher's mind. This human was a freak. While she was still in shock, more than 10 sanguisurincus extended from her body and attacked Immortal. At the same time, her level 10 telekinesis was released. Chapter 124. When the female researcher saw that her attack had missed, she immediately attacked Immortal with more than a dozen sanguisurincus and telekinesis. This time, she had learned her lesson. The sanguisurincus circled around, intending to bypass the barrier. However, after circling around and attacking Immortal's back, she once again hit the invisible barrier. Only then did she realize that the invisible telekinesis barrier was omnidirectional. At the same time, her telekinesis also attacked Immortal. However, just as her psyche power touched Immortal's body trembled. Suddenly, a violent and domineering telekinesis spread out from Immortal's body. It was like a tsunami, like an earthquake. It counterattacked her telekinesis. Almost in an instant, her telekinesis was directly defeated. She didn't even have the chance to retreat into her body. At the same time, her mind was already blank. She had lost her ability to think. Only instinctive desire was left. A shocking roar burst out from her throat. She pounced towards Immortal. Immortal activated his dragon telekinesis. The female researcher was instantly lifted up. She flew out of the door involuntarily. Then, she flew towards the sky. The female researcher tried to struggle. But that domineering telekinesis made it impossible for her to resist. Soon, she disappeared into the night sky. A moment later, a patrol team was patrolling near the corpse farm. But at this moment, bang, a loud sound suddenly came from about 10 meters to their left. This loud sound came so suddenly that almost all the team members were shocked and subconsciously jumped a few steps to the side. Then, they looked in the direction of the loud sound. They saw something falling from the sky. They shone their flashlights over. Their expressions immediately changed. They saw the outline of a human in the dust. Taking a closer look, they saw that it was indeed just the outline of a human. It had already been smashed into a pulp. It was badly mutilated. And there was a lot of ice shards on the surface of its body. It had fallen from a height of at least 5,000 to 6,000 meters. These patrol team members all subconsciously looked up at the sky. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Other than that, they couldn't see anything. The few of them were all panic-stricken. Soon, the members of the hunter group arrived. After investigating the scene, they identified the body as the female researcher based on the clothes on the body. It wasn't easy for them to borrow this female researcher. He had only been here for a day, and he was already killed. When the chief of the base found out about this, he ordered a thorough investigation. It was 3:00 at night. Base chief's office. The bureau chief frowned. Someone had killed a researcher. This was clearly an attempt to sabotage the base's plans to build a laboratory. Who was the one who didn't want the base to build a laboratory? No matter how hard he thought about it, he could not think of such a person. There were a few people sitting on the sofa in his office. Staff officer, Hao Ren, and Zhen Shishir. These were all his capable subordinates. However, the three of them were also frowning at this moment, not saying a word. They were here because they wanted to discuss with the chief who could be the murderer. Secondly, they were waiting for orders. As long as there were any clues, they would act immediately. Chief, to be able to throw someone down from a height of 5,000 to 6,000 meters, other than a flying mutant beast, it could only be that mysterious strong man. There were no flying mutant beasts tonight, so it's most likely that mysterious strong man did it. The staff officer said. The chief nodded. I thought of that too. But, why did the mysterious strong man stop us from building a laboratory? The chief's frown deepened. If it was really done by the mysterious strong man, then there was nothing they could do. Hao Ren and Zhen Shishir looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. After a while, a soldier walked in. Chief, the blood analysis is out. Everyone's eyes focused. Perhaps they could get some clues from the blood analysis. The soldier continued, the female researcher carried a large amount of virus X in her body. According to the results, she should be a zombie. Zombie? Everyone's eyes widened at the same time. Even the chief was in disbelief. Hao Ren shook his head. Could it be a mistake? The female researcher is a zombie? We borrowed her from base C3. The soldier replied, the person in charge of the blood analysis has already done it 3 times, and the results are all the same. She's a zombie. The few of them were shocked, but they also felt relieved one after another. If the female researcher was a zombie, then it made sense for the mysterious strong man to kill her. The soldier continued. And according to the blood analysis, the strength of her cells far exceeds that of our hunters. I'm afraid, she's a level 10 strong mutant zombie, or even a super mutant zombie. When everyone heard this, they all felt a lingering fear. They had seen the power of a super mutant zombie. If the mysterious strong man did not find and get rid of the female researcher early, then their entire base would be in big trouble again. They should be thankful and grateful to the mysterious strong man. The chief said to the soldier, who brought her back, call that person over. Soon, the helicopter pilot was brought over. The chief's face was gloomy as he said, tell me in detail how you met the female researcher and how you brought her back. The helicopter pilot also knew that something had happened. He did not dare to hide anything. He hurriedly explained what had happened to him. When he arrived at base C3, he said a lot of good things, but base C3 did not agree to lend them the researcher. Helplessly, he planned to leave. But just as he was about to leave, a woman suddenly rushed over. She said that she was a researcher in the laboratory and had volunteered to come to base C2. Thus, he brought her back. He did not expect that this female researcher was a super mutant zombie disguised as a human. The pilot felt a chill on the back of his neck. He actually stayed in the same helicopter with a super mutant zombie for more than 40 minutes. It was like taking a stroll through the gates of hell. It was 2F** King exciting. At the same time, in Mo Shi's room. He ordered the virus clone to clean up the bloodstains in the room. He himself checked the memories of the super mutant zombie. It turned out that this super mutant zombie's arm was lightly scratched by a zombie's claw. She became a zombie after being infected. After that, she mutated into a super mutant zombie in a blood pool in a nest. After becoming a super mutant zombie, her skin looked no different from a normal person's. Only her eyes were still grayish-white. As long as she wore black contact lenses, she would look completely human from the outside. After that, she received orders from the nest to assassinate Mo Shi. But she did not expect that Immortal had the blood demon's eyes and could easily tell that she was a zombie. After checking these memories, Immortal sneered. Interesting. These nests actually sent zombies to assassinate him. When he became a level 3 great hunter and could do whatever he wanted in Wuxia, it would be the day these nests were destroyed. Chapter 125. The next day, in order to express goodwill to the mysterious powerhouse, the base chief let people spread what happened last night. Naturally, people were grateful to the mysterious powerhouse. However, other than gratitude, there were also other comments. Why are strange things happening in the base recently? Yeah, so many strange things have never happened before. It seems. Ever since those two people from base C1 came, the base has not been peaceful. Now that you mention it, it's true. Before they came, we hadn't had any trouble here for a few years. As soon as the two of them came, there were strong mutated zombies coming to the base to capture people. Then there were super mutated zombies that captured all the hunters and psychokinesis. Now even zombies have begun to disguise themselves as humans. Although I don't believe in ghosts and gods, these two people are like jinxes. It's really unsettling. The matter of the super mutated zombies had come to an end. That night, Immortal once again signed in 10 drops of the Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification liquid. He only took 3 drops. He felt his body begin to heat up. Every cell in his body became abnormally active. All the cells in his body were no longer pure human cells. They had been changed by the modification liquid into cells that were stronger than human cells and could hold more energy. Of course, this was only less than 1 in 10 million. 5 minutes later, the hot feeling in his body gradually disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a feeling of strength. In his mind, his attribute interface showed frowny face name, Immortal, level 2 Great Hunter, level 1 Long Nian, evolution direction, Titan Dragon. Immortal was overjoyed. Originally, it was extremely difficult for a Great Hunter to advance by 1 level. If there were other Great Hunters on Earth, it would take more than 10 or even decades to advance by 1 level. However, he had advanced by 1 level in just 10 days. He had advanced even faster than those corpse hunters. If others knew about this, they would probably be envious to death. Then, Immortal estimated. With the effect of the modification liquid, it would probably take 3 months to advance to level 3. But that might not be the case. If the system leveled up again, who knew what the effect would be? Maybe after leveling up, it would increase by 100 times. Wouldn't that mean he could level up again in just a few days? However, most of the zombies and mutant beasts near base C2 had been killed by him. There was no source of evolution points. On the other hand, it would consume 110,000 yuan a night. When would the system be able to upgrade again? However, there were still many zombies and mutant beasts around base C1. He had already completed his work at base C2, so there was no point in staying any longer. She had not seen Happy for many days, and she still missed him a little. No matter how one looked at it, they would have to leave after 4 or 5 days at most. In the next few days, he often went to the Karma Temple to chat with the old monk. The old monk knew a lot of strange stories. Immortal treated it as a story. At the same time, in the temple, the people who came to offer incense occasionally complained about the two people from base C2. Immortal just laughed it off. Would an elephant care about the complaints of an ant? That night, after Immortal signed in, he let the virus clone lie on the bed to replace him. Meanwhile, his main body entered the dragon's cave. This was his habit after obtaining the dragon's cave. The virus clone lay on the bed so that no one would notice that he had inexplicably disappeared. At the same time, if someone wanted to harm him, the virus clone could also die in his place. His main body slept and rested in the dragon's cave to nurture Long Wei. After a period of nurturing, his Long Wei had obviously strengthened a lot. If he encountered that level 2 super mutant zombie again, he could release Long Wei and make her feel fear. But that night, while he was nurturing Long Wei, suddenly, his mind moved slightly. The clone in the room outside had a trace of his dragon will. He could sense the outside world through the clone. In his perception, the ground suddenly shook violently. When the clone spread its psychic power out of a radius of 1,000 meters, it found that all the surrounding houses, trees, and utility poles were shaking violently. Earthquake. Mo Shi sighed. He couldn't sleep well. He retreated from the dragon's cave. Then, he put the virus clone into his backpack. At this moment, under the violent shaking, the entire building had begun to collapse. Rumble, rumble, from time to time, huge pieces of cement fell down. However, when the cement hit the top of Mo Shi's head, it was gently swept away by his dragon will. An ordinary level 1 psychic could at most lift something that weighed a ton with psychic power. However, Mo Shi's dragon will could easily lift something that weighed dozens of tons. So sweeping away the cement was not a problem. Then, he took a step forward and came to the square in front of the emergency shelter. In the next moment, he took a step forward. Rumble, the entire apartment building collapsed with a bang. Smoke and dust swept out like a tsunami. Mo Shi jumped out of the range of the smoke and dust. He used his psychic power to explore a radius of 10 kilometers. Within this 10 kilometers, 1/3 of the houses had collapsed. People screamed, ran, and cried in horror. This earthquake lasted for a full 5 minutes. And the epicenter was in the residential area. After the earthquake, people stayed in the open space for a few hours. It was late winter, and people were covered in dust, cold, and sleepy, but they didn't dare to go back to sleep. Those who had lost their relatives and friends, some were crying heart-wrenchingly, some were whimpering softly. There were also people who kept complaining. What's going on? First, the strong mutated zombie came to the base to capture people, then the super mutated zombie captured the hunter and psychokinesis, then the super mutated zombie disguised as humans to sneak into the base, and now there's an earthquake. Oh heavens, are you really going to kill them all? During this period of time, the base hasn't been peaceful at all. Sigh, is the real end of the world coming? Someone recalled the previous remarks. Don't you think it's strange? All of this happened after the 2 people from base C2 came. That's right, everything was fine before they came. Someone asked the old monk, Master, do you think those 2 people are evil spirits that crawled out of hell and came to base C2 specifically to take our lives? The old monk shook his head, Amitabha, all effects have a cause. What was planted in the previous life, what was the result in this life? We can only face it calmly and bear our own karma. Don't make wild guesses and frame others. However, no one was in the mood to listen to the old monk's Zen theory at this time. It must be them. We have to get them out of base C2. Get them out. Getting out of base C2 is a light punishment. Let them leave and then go and harm other bases? Kill them. A man who had just lost 2 children roared with bloodshot eyes. Let them die. A man whose legs were smashed into a bloody mess also roared angrily. Chapter 126. These days, people had been in a state of panic and uneasiness. They had been suppressed for too long and needed an outlet to vent their emotions. Especially today, more than 100 people had died in the earthquake. More than 700 people had been injured. Those who had lost their relatives and friends, or those who had lost their limbs, were almost hysterical at this moment. My family is gone, my limbs are gone. Why are you still fine when I have lost everything? If I can't get better, none of you can get better. Under the accumulation of depression and hysteria, many people began to target Mo Shi and Xiao Di. Kill them. Burn them. They brought this disaster. Kill them. Mo sure looked at all of this coldly. He couldn't be bothered with these stupid humans. At the same time, he could understand how Hao Ren and Xianxia felt when they were at base C1. However, unlike them, Hao Ren and Xianxia couldn't escape at that time. If Mo sure wanted to leave, who could stop him? If he didn't want to leave, who could kill him? Seeing that he couldn't persuade everyone, the old monk could only shake his head helplessly and chant the name of Buddha. Amitabha. Perhaps, this was the karma of benefactor Mo and the others. Hao Ren squeezed through the crowd and walked out. He said to everyone, "Brothers and sisters, I know how you feel. But you say that all of this is their fault. Do you have any evidence? They came to our base from thousands of kilometers away to help us. Now, not only are we not grateful to them, but we are also accusing them of something they didn't do. Isn't this too disappointing?" Xianxia also followed. Although she didn't say much and her tone was very cold. But she was very determined. "I believe them. In the past, if a level 5 hunter and a level 4 psychokinesis stood up and spoke, everyone would definitely be convinced. But today, everyone finally found an outlet to vent their emotions. Seeing that they were about to vent, how could it be so easy to block this outlet? Although the base chief heard what everyone was saying, he didn't step out to support Mo sure and the others. As the leader, he knew that if everyone didn't vent their emotions, something big would happen. Anyway, it seemed that the laboratory would not be built. Since these two had become the target of everyone's venting, then let nature take its course. In the hunting group, there was a hunter with a look of grief and indignation. "Vice Commander Hao, Vice Commander Zhen. I also want to believe in you." But ever since they had arrived, all sorts of things had happened one after another. "My wife's leg was also broken just now. How can I believe that?" As soon as the corpse hunter said this, the others were filled with grief and indignation again. Psychokinesis, who had just lost her son, had bloodshot eyes. The veins on his forehead bulged. The words of the surrounding people were like adding oil to the fire. At a certain moment, he finally lost all reason. His son was dead, and he didn't want to live anymore. Don't live anymore. He activated his telekinesis and searched for Mo sure and Xiao Di in the crowd. Soon, he found Xiao Di, who was more than 10 meters away. Then, more than 30 throwing knives flew over everyone's heads and headed straight for Xiao Di. However, he was only a level 3 psychokinesis. And Xiao Di's brain cells had been unearthed by Mo sure before, and he was already a level 5 psychokinesis. Feeling the throwing knives coming, he activated his telekinesis. It instantly spread out. The 30 throwing knives were instantly sent flying far away. More than 20 throwing knives fell to the ground with a few clangs. But a few of them flew and fell into the crowd. A woman's arm was cut and she immediately screamed. The surrounding people immediately screamed and fled. Only Mo sure and Xiao Di were left standing in the middle of the open space. The hunters and psychokinesis of the hunting group immediately stepped forward and surrounded Mo sure and Xiao Di in a fan shape. The people who screamed and fled saw the hunters and psychokinesis at this moment. They turned back and shouted behind the hunters and psychokinesis. "This kid is psychokinesis. Damn, he hit it so well. He has bad intentions. He really hurt people. It seems that they did everything. He finally showed his true colors. Kill him and avenge our family. Kill them. Kill them. If we don't kill them, our base won't be safe." The angry crowd kept raising their fists, waving them, and cursing behind the members of psychokinesis and the hunting group. Some people even picked up bricks and stones by the side of the road and threw them at Mo sure and Xiao Di. Hao Ren and Xianxia wanted to stop them, but how could they stop these crazy people? They couldn't use force directly. The old monk could only lower his eyelids, put his palms together, and keep chanting in a low voice, "Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha." the base chief saw that it was about time, and his eyes were cold. He ordered the hunting group, all psychokinesis, suppress his telekinesis. Hunters, shrink the encirclement and prevent them from escaping. Hunters, get close and take them down. If necessary, kill them on the spot. Everyone in the hunting group immediately took a few steps forward. More than 30 psychics were controlling 400 flying daggers with their telekinesis. At the same time, they approached Immortal and Xiao Di. Those hunters, each of them fierce, also closed in on Immortal and the others. Xiao Di's level 5 telekinesis was already a little overwhelmed when resisting more than 30 psychokinesis telekinesis at the same time. The hunters were less than 5 meters away from them. More than 400 throwing knives were less than 3 meters away from them. At this moment, Immortal moved. His right arm slowly thickened. Black scales appeared on the surface. His 5 fingers slowly turned into 5 dragon claws. Then, he gently moved forward. Whoosh, an invisible force instantly extended forward. Boom, time seemed to stop, and the scene seemed to be frozen. The next moment, on the ground, a huge ravine that was 50 meters wide appeared. This huge ravine actually extended for 5 kilometers. It almost divided the entire base into 2. The ravine was dozens of meters deep. The edges were as smooth as a mirror. It was as if a huge invisible blade had appeared from the sky and divided the ground into 2. The hunters, corpse hunters, and psychokinesis who had surrounded Immortal and the others. They were all wiped out. Even the thousands of people behind them were sliced into pieces by the invisible force, their flesh and blood splattering everywhere. Even those who weren't in the middle of the claw marks were directly torn apart by the invisible force. At this moment, silence. The cold wind whistled past. The angry crowd from before was as quiet as the dead. Those who were screaming shut their mouths. Those who threw bricks slipped from their hands to the ground. Some of the more timid ones were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. They looked at the huge ravine that was like a natural chasm, looked at the thousands of broken bodies in the ravine, and looked at the ground that was stained red with blood. They were all speechless for a long time. Immortal's cold eyes were emotionless. He withdrew his dragon claws. He turned around and slowly walked into the darkness in the distance. The old monk lowered his eyelids and slowly chanted the name of Buddha. Amitabha. Chapter 127. Immortal turned around and walked slowly into the darkness. Xiao Di also turned around and followed Immortal into the darkness. Behind them, the remaining 10,000 people couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. They were shocked, and their faces were full of shock. They were frightened, and their eyes were full of fear. 1/5 of the hunters in their hunting group were killed in an instant. Almost all the hunters and psychokinesis in the hunting group were killed. More than 1,000 crazy civilians were also turned into broken limbs and broken bodies. This zombie breeder's strength was terrifying. After a long time, the staff officer said in shock. The mysterious strong man. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. The mysterious strong man. This was the mysterious strong man they had been talking about these days. The mysterious strong man they had set up a longevity tablet for. The strong man who killed more than 100 strong mutated zombies without making a sound. Within an hour, he slaughtered an entire city. The mysterious strong man who killed a super mutated zombie in one move. And what did they do? They wanted to kill the mysterious strong man. How stupid must one be to do such a thing? The mysterious strong man was angry, and thousands of people died. They were forced to do this. More importantly, if there were powerful zombies and mutated beasts, the mysterious strong man could kill them. Now, the mysterious strong man had abandoned the base. If more super mutated zombies came, they didn't even dare to think about the consequences. At this moment, their intestines were green with regret. Hao Ren and Zhen Shishir also widened their eyes. Both of their minds were blank. In their eyes, Mo Shi was just an ordinary person. They didn't see anything different about him from ordinary people when they were in base C1, and on the way to base C2 by helicopter. They never thought that he was a hunter. And he was strong enough to kill dozens of hunters and more than 30 psychokinesis in one move. With such strength, he was probably not a level 10 hunter. He was more than a level 10 hunter. The chief of the base had a complicated expression on his face. There was shock, disbelief, and regret. That zombie breeder was the mysterious strong man. They should have known. When the two of them arrived at base C2, the mysterious man appeared. He should have known that the two of them were related to the mysterious expert. But he had overlooked it and been deceived by their appearances. Then, he did such a stupid thing. This caused the mysterious expert to kill thousands of people in a fit of rage. Apart from a handful of hunters, the rest of the hunters and more than 30 psychokinesis were all killed. Most importantly, he had angered the mysterious expert and caused the base to lose a powerful guardian. At that moment, the chief of the base wished he could slap himself a few times on the spot. At this moment, the staff officer beside him walked over. He asked in a low voice, "Chief, what do we do now?" The bureau chief's brows were tightly furrowed, and his expression was ugly. After pondering for a long time, he opened his mouth to speak. However, before he could finish his sentence, bang! His entire body exploded into a cloud of blood mist. There was no flesh or bone. It had completely exploded at the cellular level. Only a few pieces of cloth were left behind, dancing in the cold wind along with the bloody mist. It was like a drunken bloody butterfly. It clearly showed everyone how the 100-strong mutated zombies had disappeared. The staff officer was covered in blood. He was extremely frightened. He took a few steps back and fell to the ground. Most of the people present squatted on the ground subconsciously. They held their heads with their hands. They were afraid that they would suddenly explode. They knew firsthand what it meant to be dominated by fear. Or rather, they had been completely dominated by fear. When the mysterious expert was angry, it was terrifying. At the scene, only 3 people could still barely stand. These 3 people were Hao Ren, Zhen Shishir, and the old monk. After a long time, Hao Ren's face was dejected. He slowly shook his head and said to the crowd, "This is the result you want?" Everyone was silent. They didn't dare to make a sound. The old monk lowered his eyelids and said, "Amitabha. You reap what you sow." The little monk, who was squatting on the ground next to him, held his head tightly. A chill ran down his spine. He kept muttering, "Amitabha. Don't kill me. Amitabha. It's my mouth." He had once said that the zombie keeper was a pretentious prick. The zombie keeper was very powerful. If he found out, would he be in a good situation? In the wilderness. Mo Shi slowed down and slowly moved forward. Those people's so-called mysterious experts' anger were actually thinking too much. Mo Shi wasn't angry at all. With his current strength, those below the level of a grand hunter were ants. What was there to be angry about a group of ants? He had inadvertently saved these people a few times in times of danger. He didn't expect these people to be grateful to him and repay him. And now, these people had offended him and offended him. He wouldn't be angry at all. He would just kill them. As for the base chief, he naturally wouldn't let him go. Behind him, Xiao Di quickly caught up with him. But with level 5 psychokinesis, his body was only the same as an ordinary person's. No matter how fast he ran, he couldn't catch up with Mo Shi. Mo Shi turned his head and said, "I'm going back to base C1. If you want to go back, follow me slowly." This guy was too slow. He couldn't be bothered to wait. Anyway, with him cleaning up the zombies in front, this guy with the strength of level 5 psychokinesis wouldn't be in too much danger. Of course, with Mo Shi's current strength, he couldn't be bothered to deal with zombies below the level of super mutated. He directly let the virus clone deal with them in front. The virus clone had the strength of a level 10 hunter and level 10 psychokinesis. It wouldn't be too much of a problem to deal with these zombies and mutated beasts. Mo Shi treated the more than 1,000 kilometers as a vacation. On the fourth day, they passed by Emperor Qin's mausoleum. The mausoleum was still filled with corpse aura. The corpse aura was so heavy that it seemed to have solidified. It connected the sky and the earth. It seemed to have the aura of supremacy in the world. It actually made Mo Shi's heart palpitate slightly. However, this palpitating feeling was far less intense than the last time. Mo Shi frowned slightly. There was no virus hive nearby, so he couldn't know what was going on in the Qianxia hills. It was better not to pay attention to it for the time being. When he was stronger in the future, he would go there and try to see if he could sign something good. Then, he turned his head to look at the Terracotta Army Museum. There was no corpse aura there. He remembered the green-faced terracotta zombie he saw the last time. He took a step forward and came to the Terracotta Army Museum. With a sweep of his psychic power, Mo Shi frowned even more. In the entire Terracotta Army Museum, more than 8,000 terracotta figures had disappeared. The 3 huge terracotta pits were empty. There was nothing. Thinking of a certain possibility, Mo Shi felt that it was a bit ridiculous. However, if this kind of nonsense was true, walking out of the museum, he looked in the direction of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Previously, he didn't find any information about the so-called king in the consciousness of the virus hive. Could it be the king that those zombies mentioned before they died was there? Chapter 128. Mo Shi took one last look at the direction of Emperor Qin's mausoleum. He didn't stay any longer. He walked towards base C1 with large strides. After half a day, he was finally not far from base C1. He took a look at his evolution points in his mind. In these few days, he had killed countless zombies and mutated beasts. He had already obtained more than 87 million evolution points. He was about to reach 100 million. Thus, he didn't immediately return to base C1. Instead, he circled around base C1 within 200 kilometers. He cleared out all the zombies and mutated beasts here. His evolution points had already reached 91 million. As for where to get the remaining 9 million, he had already thought of a place to go. There was a city about 300 kilometers northwest of base C1. Previously, from the consciousness of the virus hive, he saw that there was another virus hive in that city. If he went there, he would definitely be able to obtain enough evolution points. Moreover, since the virus hive had sent a super mutated zombie to assassinate him, then he would have to clear out all the virus hives step by step. He used the small success dragon shadow step, 10 kilometers in one step. In just 30 steps, he arrived at the city. When he arrived, all the plants had turned blood red. On the ground, sanguisurincus intertwined. When Mo Shi walked past, these sanguisurincus slowly wrapped around Mo Shi's feet. However, when Mo Shi released Longwei, these sanguisurincus retreated one after another. When he arrived at the entrance of the city, he looked with his blood demon eyes. The thick corpse aura seemed to have solidified. However, with Mo Shi's current strength, he didn't feel that this kind of corpse aura was very dangerous. The corpse aura here was far worse than the one in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. He entered the city through the highway toll booth. A huge dragon will swept across. With him as the center, all the zombies within a radius of 10 kilometers exploded into a bloody mist. When he walked forward, behind him, he left behind a bloody mist that was 20 kilometers wide. In the end, the bloody mist fell to the ground. The withered grass, walls, and ground that were already red were dyed even more bloody red. With such a width, there was no need to sweep back and forth in the city like before. As long as it was done once, the zombies in the city would be wiped clean. At the same time, his mind was once again filled with evolution points. Killed level 3 variant zombie. Evolution points plus 300, killed level 5 strong variant zombie. Evolution points plus 5,000, in just over 10 minutes, most of the zombies in the city had been cleared by him. He looked at it in his mind. His evolution points had reached 99.73 million points. The difference was less than 270,000. He turned around and looked at the place where the corpse chi was the densest. That should be where the nest was. Stepping on the blood-red ground, he walked towards the broodmother's nest. A moment later, they arrived at an underground parking lot. The sanguisurincus in the parking lot was already as thick as an arm. Thousands of sanguisurincus slithered towards Immortal like snakes when they saw Immortal. However, after Immortal released his long way, these sanguisurincus immediately became obedient. One by one, they hurriedly shrank back with drooping heads. In the middle of the underground parking lot, there was a huge crack that was 5 meters wide and 50 meters long. Judging from the corpse chi, the broodmother's nest was under the crack. The broodmother's nest was really sneaky. It was actually built here. If he did not have the blood demon pupil, he might not have been able to find it. He first probed the broodmother's nest with his draconic sense. Under his investigation, there was a huge cave underground. The entire cave was a huge broodmother's nest. Immortal jumped into the crack. The crack was 5 kilometers deep. Under the crack, it was so dark that one could not even see their own fingers. A thick smell of blood came from the dark tunnel ahead. In the dark tunnel, there were 23 level 10 variant zombies. However, with Immortal's current strength, even if they were level 10 variant zombies, they would explode into a bloody mist with just a sweep of his draconic sense. After getting rid of the 23 level 10 variant zombies, his evolution points had reached 96 million. He was less than 40,000 points away. This was the same as killing 4 level 10 variant zombies. Immortal couldn't help but feel a little excited. Soon, he arrived at the huge cave. From here, he could only see 10 or so giant sarcomas with a diameter of 10 meters. These sarcomas had already blocked the entrance, so he could not see the situation inside. Immortal was planning to destroy these sarcomas. However, at this time, the ground behind him suddenly shook. Then, rumble the dark tunnel that he had just passed began to collapse. Moments later, the tunnel above his head collapsed with a rumble. He quickly used his telekinesis to block above his head and behind him, forming a telekinesis barrier to block the falling rocks and dirt. However, when it rains, it pours. The huge sarcomas in front of him also exploded at this moment. Bang bang bang. However, the strange thing was that from the exploded sarcomas, what flowed out was not blood, but fiery red magma. That fiery red, hot magma surged towards Immortal. Immortal instantly realized that this was a trap. It was a trap set by the mother nest. The underground mother nest was a fake mother nest, and it was only there to lure him in. Then she would use the magma to kill him. Fuck, did this mother nest go somewhere to train? She's getting smarter and smarter. Last time she sent an assassin, this time she was trying to lure him in. At this time, the only thing Immortal could do was to use his draconic sense to block the rocks above and behind him. At the same time, he had to block the hot magma in front of him. However, even though his draconic sense was strong, it was not strong enough to block the thousands of tons of rocks above his head. In just a moment, the rocks above his head were already less than half a meter away from his head. He could only use more draconic sense above his head. However, this way, the amount of draconic sense left for the magma was much less. At a certain moment, bang, the walls of the tunnel on his left and right also instantly cracked. From the left and right, a large amount of magma also surged out. This time, Immortal could no longer resist. He could only watch helplessly as the magma swallowed his feet. Then his legs, waist, chest. Until the top of his head was swallowed. At the same time, above the tunnel, sanguisurincus as thick as thighs kept appearing in the entire underground parking lot. On the ground of the parking lot, thousands of sanguisurincus appeared. A large amount of blood seeped out of the sanguisurincus. In less than 5 minutes, the entire underground parking lot had formed a huge blood pool. The blood pool was more than 3 meters deep. More than 20 huge sarcomas had grown out of the 2 entrances of the parking lot, blocking the entrances. It turned out that this was the real virus mother nest. Soon, 7 or 8 level 10 strong mutated zombies squeezed in from the sarcomas. They let out excited roars from their throats. That human is finally dead. The trap set by the mother nest is really powerful. Once that human is dead, we can launch a general attack on the human base according to the king's will. Chapter 129. 129 His great Qin has fallen. The virus hive had set a trap and swallowed Immortal with magma. The real hive was then revealed. At this time, in the mother nest, the 7 level 10 mutant zombies were bathing in the blood pool as they roared and communicated with each other. Although that human is strong, he's still too stupid. He thought he could do whatever he wanted because he was strong, but he fell into the hive's trap. Sure enough, no matter how strong humans are, they're just a bunch of pitiful worms. Just as they were discussing. Suddenly, rumble, almost instantly, the concrete above their heads shook violently. The 7 level, 10 mutant zombies' faces all changed. The next moment, boom, the entire hive seemed to have been hit by a meteorite falling from the sky. It collapsed with a loud bang. The huge sarcomas at the entrance of the hive also exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. In almost an instant, the entire hive was buried under the ground. On the ground, Immortal looked at the huge pit in front of him that was more than 200 meters in diameter. There was no emotion in his cold eyes. A moment later, a level 10 mutated zombie crawled out of the ruins at the edge of the huge pit. When he saw Immortal's figure, his grayish-white eyes were full of horror and disbelief. How could it be? How could this human still be alive? Didn't he already die in the underground magma? But then, with horror, he threatened. The king won't let you go. The next moment. Boom, this level 10 mutated zombie's body had also exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Only then did a faint smile appear on Immortal's face. The hive's trap was really deep. But it had underestimated Immortal's level of cowardice. He had the check-in system, but he could stay in the base for more than 10 years. Would such a person casually enter the underground fissure? When he was playing games in his previous life, he understood the essence of the word cowardice. Cowardly development, don't King wander. This was the sentence he said most often. How could a person who could be so cowardly while playing games casually enter an underground crack? Previously, when he entered the dragon ruins, he used his telekinesis to explore again and then used the zombie puppets to probe inside first. Now that an unknown crack had appeared, he naturally couldn't go down. Instead, he created a virus clone and went to investigate. Sure enough, it was all part of the broodmother's trap. This broodmother is actually playing mind games with me. It's a pity that he's not as cunning as I am, smart. At this time, after killing those zombies, the evolution points in Immortal's mind finally broke through the 100 million mark. The system's voice-prompted frowny face evolution points have reached 100 million. The system can be upgraded again. Do you want to upgrade? Immortal said, no. Unable to sign in during the upgrade period. Since he was already here, he naturally had to sign in before leveling up. System, sign in. Sign in successful. Sign in location, Virus Hive, sign in reward, Broodmother Sanguisurincus. Mosher looked at the skill's description in his mind. Broodmother Sanguisurincus, the virus in the body can produce a large number of Sanguisurincus. Sanguisurincus can extend up to 50 kilometers to scout for information or be used for combat. Mosher moved his mind. Under his feet, a Sanguisurincus as thick as an arm spread out. This Sanguisurincus directly drilled into the ground. Then, under the ground, it spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. In the end, it spread out to a radius of 50 kilometers. At this moment, even if Mosher didn't use his dragon's will, everything within 50 kilometers was within his perception. His mind moved again. More than 30 kilometers away, under the feet of a strong mutated zombie, more than 10 Sanguisurincus as thick as an arm suddenly stretched out. This strong mutated zombie had long been used to the Sanguisurincus. Moreover, it knew that this Sanguisurincus came from the Broodmother, so it felt very familiar. Therefore, it didn't have the slightest bit of defense. But at this moment, more than 10 Sanguisurincus suddenly pierced towards the strong mutated zombie. Puff 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 puff, every Sanguisurincus pierced into the strong mutated zombie's body. Until death, the strong mutated zombie's eyes were filled with astonishment. In its eyes, the Broodmother was like a mother. Every zombie was the Broodmother's son. This was too vicious, it didn't even let its own son go. At the same time, it also encountered tens of thousands of zombies and mutated beasts. With Mosher as the center, within a radius of 50 kilometers, all the zombies and mutated beasts were attacked by the Sanguisurincus at the same time. And in Mosher's mind, evolution points once again flooded the screen. With this wave, he obtained more than 1 million evolution points. At this time, Mosher said in his mind, the system can be upgraded. The system instantly replied, frowny face, this upgrade requires 12 hours. Unable to sign in during the upgrade. Confirm upgrade? Confirm. The system still had a bit of conscience. That was, it did not need to use evolution points during the upgrade. Otherwise, his 100 million evolution points would not be much left after leveling up. After doing all this, Mosher did not relax. This was because when he killed the Broodmother, he had connected to the Broodmother's consciousness. In the Broodmother's consciousness, a vague figure appeared. He could feel that the Broodmother's consciousness at that time had the same thought, King will not let you go. It was very clear that this figure should be the so-called King. Previously, Mosher had always thought that the King was a powerful zombie under the Broodmother's control. But now, it seemed that the King was an existence above the Broodmother's. This was also the reason why he could not find the King in the Broodmother's consciousness. But this time, he could see the vague outline of the King in the Broodmother's consciousness. It seemed to be a zombie. He could roughly feel that the King's strength should be at the level of a super-mutated zombie. As for what level of super-mutated zombie it was, he could not feel it for the time being. Moreover, the King actually sent a message to Mosher through the Broodmother's consciousness, if you dare to destroy another Broodmother's nest, I will make you pay the price. Mosher only sneered at this. What he hated the most in his life was people threatening him. After the system upgrade, he could peacefully sign in for a period of time. Once his strength increases, even if the King came, he would be able to slap it to death. At the same time, nearly 1,000 kilometers away, in the depths of Emperor Qin's tomb. In the dark main hall, a green-faced terracotta zombie was kneeling there motionlessly. It was as if it was a real terracotta. Above the main hall, on the dragon throne. A terracotta that seemed to have been sleeping for 1,000 years slowly opened its eyes. This terracotta was wearing a black dragon robe and a crown on its head. Its face was black. From its ears to its mouth, it had a long black beard. Its appearance was majestic and did not lose its dignity. Its entire body was filled with the aura of a king that looked down on the world. His gaze swept across the green-faced zombie terracotta under the main hall. The next moment, his figure instantly disappeared from the dragon throne. When he reappeared, he was already at the top of Emperor Qin's tomb. From here, he looked down at the surrounding wilderness. The sky was blue and the water was blue, but there was no one. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single living person. After a moment, his eyes flashed. From his throat, he let out a roar that sounded like a zombie's, but also like a human's roar. This roar reverberated in all directions. All the zombies and mutated beasts within a radius of dozens of kilometers were all frightened. My great Qin is dead? Chapter 130. After Immortal destroyed the nest, he didn't stay for long and went straight back to base C1. When everyone in base C1 saw that Immortal had returned, they were all excited. Although they had seen Immortal's ruthless side and were a little afraid of Immortal. But this was a mysterious powerhouse after all. His combat strength could be said to be abnormal. With him around, the base was absolutely safe. Because these people were in awe of Immortal, no one dared to get too close. They only dared to look at him from afar. At the same time, the chief of the base and the leader of the hunter group hurried over when they heard that Immortal had returned. But they all knew that Immortal liked peace and quiet. If they rushed over now, would it make Immortal unhappy? If Immortal was unhappy, he might tear 10,000 people apart with a thought. After all, the scene of the hunters and psychokinesis tearing apart the hunters of base C10 was still vivid in their minds. After hesitating for a moment, they finally decided not to disturb Immortal. Immortal was so powerful, but he could hide in the base for more than 10 years. It was obvious that he didn't care about fame, nor did he care about profits. His mentality was just as indifferent, tranquil, and aloof from worldly affairs as his appearance suggested. However, although they didn't disturb him, they still had to do what they had to do. The chief of the base ordered everyone, from today onwards, no one is allowed to go near the corpse farm. Otherwise, they will be punished by military law. The staff officer next to him said carefully, "Chief, if there is no one else near the corpse farm, won't it be too unnatural? This will make him unhappy. I think it's better for everyone to do what they did before. As long as we don't deliberately disturb him, he shouldn't mind, right?" Then, he turned his head and looked at Do Xiaodo. "Captain Xiaodo, you used to be his colleague, so you know him better. What do you think?" The chief also turned his head and looked at Do Xiaodo. Do Xiaodo suddenly felt a lot more pressure on him. "Damn it, I'm just a small captain. Why do you have to drag me down with you big shots? And how could I possibly understand him? If I understood him, I would have known that he was a mysterious expert for more than 10 years. However, on the surface, he still thought for a moment before speaking. I feel that he's a person who stands aloof from worldly affairs and is quiet and natural. He's usually very easygoing. As long as you don't provoke him or disturb him, everything else will be fine as usual." The bureau chief and the staff officer nodded. Captain Littlebean is indeed insightful. Hence, the bureau chief immediately ordered, "No one is allowed to disturb MO. Mr. MO violators will be dealt with according to military law. Everything else will continue as usual." He really didn't know how to address Immortal. It was no longer appropriate to call him a mysterious expert. Calling him Lord, Senior, and so on seemed very strange. He could only address him as Mr. Mo. Everyone hurriedly said solemnly, "Yes, Chief." Immortal went straight back to the corpse farm. Happy was feeding pigs in the corpse farm. However, he was somewhat absent-minded. Big Brother Mo had already left for a while. Why hadn't he returned yet? Could there have been an accident? Impossible, Brother Mo is so strong, how could something happen to him? Happy missed Brother Mo. He didn't know if Brother Mo missed him. However, so what if he missed him? Brother Mo is so strong, and I'm just a normal person. I'm also a mute girl who can't even speak. We're not from the same world at all. Sigh. Not far away, Old Lee saw Happy's absent-minded expression and reminded him, Happy, don't be so absent-minded when you're feeding the zombies later. Safety first. Happy turned his head around, smiled brightly, and nodded. Old Lee mumbled, seriously? Little Mo has been gone for so many days, but he still hasn't returned. Sigh. As he spoke, he heard footsteps entering the courtyard. He looked up and saw Mo walking in. You're finally back, kid. Ha ha ha. Cough, cough, cough. Old Lee coughed violently because of his excitement. Happy also quickly put down what he was doing and came out to welcome him. Although she couldn't speak, her face was filled with happiness. Mo could not help but feel warm in his heart. If there were anyone in the entire base who could treat him like family, there were only two people. One was Happy, and the other was Old Lee. He took a few steps forward and looked at Happy's happy face. He could not help but reach out and rub her hair until it was messy. Happy lowered her head in happiness. When the three of them met, it was like a family reunion. For the rest of the day, Happy was practically always by Mo's side. It was as if she was unwilling to leave him even a single step. Old Lee looked at the two of them and could not help but smile in relief. The next morning, Mo woke up. He looked at the system in his mind and saw that it had completed its upgrade. Upgrade complete. Upgrade reward, 1 drop of Dragon Will Recovery Potion. Upgrade reward, your personal storage has been upgraded. After upgrading, your personal storage can be opened at any place. At the same time, the storage has been expanded. It can hold 100,000 items. Upgrade reward, 1 piece of Great Dragon Scale Armor. After use, it can block 1 fatal attack. Note, ignores the opponent's level. Upgrade reward, Dragon Breath Pearl, Strengthened. It can block the attacks of any level 10 Great Hunter, level 10 Super Mutated Beast, or level 10 Super Mutated Zombie. Mo looked at the rewards and was secretly happy. His strength would increase rapidly, and it wouldn't be long before the enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl would be useless to him. However, he could use it to defend himself. This Great Dragon Scale Armor could ignore the opponent's level defense. It was already very powerful. Let alone a level 10 Great Hunter, even if the opponent was an existence that far surpassed a level 10 Great Hunter, it would still be impossible for them to kill him in one hit. Following that, more notifications appeared in his mind. Upgrade details. 1. The check-in reward system has been upgraded. Check-in reward can be increased by 100 times. There was not much to the upgrade this time. There was only 1 item. However, just this 1 item allowed Mo to benefit a lot. Every time the check-in reward could be increased by 100 times. Then, the original 100 days to upgrade would only require 10 days. Mo immediately spoke in his mind. System, select the Titan Dragon Blood Modification Potion and increase it by 100 times. The system quickly replied. Increasing it by 100 times will consume 1 million evolution points. Selecting a reward will consume 100,000 evolution points. This check-in will consume a total of 1 million evolution points. Please confirm if you want to check in. Mo was already prepared for this. In general, the total evolution points required to check in did not increase by much. However, the time required was reduced to 1/10 of the original amount. In the end, he still profited a lot. He immediately replied in his mind, confirm. Chapter 131. Mo responded in his mind, confirm sign-in. Sign-in successful. Sign-in reward, 100 bottles of Titan Dragon Bloodline Modification Liquid. The next moment, 100 small bottles appeared in his backpack. He took out all the bottles and poured all the modification liquid into his mouth without caring about anything else. He could clearly feel that the strength of the cells in his body was much stronger than before. The toughness of his blood vessels had also greatly increased. For the next 9 days, Mo Shi would sign in 100 times the amount of modification liquid every night. Finally, on the 9th night after he returned to the base, there were 73 empty bottles in front of Mo Shi. On the other side, there were 27 unopened bottles. He could feel that as long as he took another drop of modification liquid, he would be able to level up. He suppressed the excitement in his heart. He opened the bottle cap and swallowed the drop of modification liquid. As soon as the modification liquid entered his mouth, it turned into a hot current that flowed throughout his body. Every cell in his body was being transformed by this heat flow. The strength of his cells was obviously greater, and there was more space in his cells. He could feel that all the modification liquid he had taken these days was to modify his cell strength to the limit. It could allow his cells to withstand more energy. Although until now, his cells were empty and had no energy. But looking at this situation, it seemed that when all the cells were modified, he could inject energy into them. Mo Shi estimated that when his body could inject energy, he would surpass level 10 Great Hunter and reach a whole new realm. However, he didn't know what realm it was at the moment. 5 minutes later, the burning feeling in his body slowly receded. It was also at this moment that the attribute interface in his mind changed. Frowny face name, Mo Shi, level 3 Great Hunter, level 1 Long Nian Shi, evolution path, Titan Dragon. Finally, he was a level 3 Great Hunter. According to the information obtained from the Broodmother's consciousness, the strongest zombie in China was only a level 3 super mutant zombie. He was now a level 3 Great Hunter, and with a level 1 Long Nian Shi, Mo Shi was confident that he could kill it in seconds. Of course, he didn't know how strong the king he saw in the Broodmother's nest was. However, now that the system had been upgraded, his leveling speed had also become much faster. Soon, even if the king was a level 10 super mutated zombie, he would be trampled under his feet. Naturally, the faster he leveled up, the faster his evolution points would be consumed. 1 million per night. In just 9 days, he had spent nearly 10 million. The remaining 90 million would only last for about 80 days. Moreover, if he wanted to level up again, he would need 1 billion evolution points. Instead of waiting for 90 million to be used up and then accumulating 1 billion, it would be better to clear out all the zombies in China while he still had a lot of evolution points. There were more than 1.5 billion zombies in China. Even if they were all normal zombies, he could still obtain 1.5 billion evolution points. Not to mention that there were many mutated zombies and super mutated zombies. Mo Shi planned to clear out all the zombies in China. While obtaining enough evolution points, it would also give all the humans in China a chance to breathe. Although he was not a saint, he was still a human. If all humans were dead, what was the point of him living alone in the world, facing zombies and mutant beasts all day long? Therefore, in terms of the bigger picture, he would help the humans if he could. However, before that, he had to go to the other 2 dragon ruins to sign in. Although there was still a king in the wilderness, he did not know what level it was. It was not really safe. However, Mo Shi was confident that with his dragon shadow step speed of 10 km per second, even if he could not defeat it, he could easily run away. Therefore, on the morning of the 10th day after Mo Shi returned to the base, he planned to leave. Before leaving, he gave the enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl to Happy. The enhanced version of the Dragon Breath Pearl was the same size as the previous one. However, the flame inside was more fiery red. The dragon shadow formed by the flame was also clearer. Happy, keep this pearl with you. Don't leave it at all times. Happy had seen how powerful the dragon breath pearl was last time. He immediately nodded with a happy expression on his face. Brother Mo cares about me. Mo sure took back Happy's original dragon breath pearl and put it into his backpack. Perhaps he would need it in the future. At 10:00 in the morning, Mo sure left the base. On the city wall, everyone looked at Mo sure's back as he left, and all of them were silent. After the mysterious powerhouse left, they felt that the pressure on their bodies had increased by a lot. On the second day after Mo sure left, something happened. A mutated zombie came to the entrance of the base. This mutated zombie was 3 meters tall. His face had been torn in many places. There were also many deep wounds on his body that showed his bones. Although these wounds were slowly healing, even after they healed, there would still be many sunken scars left. In his arms was a girl in her 20s. Dou Xiaodou, who was guarding the city, could not help but be stunned when he saw the girl's face through the binoculars. Guo Jutao saw this and knew that something had happened. He also picked up the binoculars and looked. With one look, he could not help but be stunned. He saw that the mutated zombie was holding Yang Kang's daughter. Then this mutated zombie was Yang Kang, who had been injected with the Super X virus enhancer before. He actually managed to find his daughter and even managed to save her. Looking at the wounds on his body, he must have experienced many cruel battles. He saw that Yang Kang was screaming in pain at this time, running quickly. At the city gate, he put his daughter down. Looking at his daughter lovingly, his originally scarlet eyes revealed a gentle color. He reached out and wanted to hold his daughter's hand. However, when he saw that his hand was no longer a human hand. It was the sharp claws of a mutated zombie. He closed his eyes in pain. He slowly withdrew his hand. His daughter hugged Yang Kang's thick waist. "Dad, no matter what you become, I will always be your daughter." In Yang Kang's scarlet eyes, a tear quietly slipped down and dripped on his daughter's head. He squatted down and reached out to hug his daughter. For a long time, he did not want to let go. In his throat, he made a half-human, half-beast sound, "Will always be your father." After a long time, he seemed to have made up his mind. He gently pushed his daughter away. Then he faced the city wall and made a half-human, half-beast roar, "Kill me, quick, I can't hold on anymore." His daughter's tears seemed to have already dried up. She could only say, "Dad, no, don't leave me." On the city wall, Guo Jutao's eyes flashed. For a moment, he could not make up his mind. Yang Kang continued to make a half-human, half-beast roar, "Guo Jutao, quick, kill me, use your genetic weapon, quick." Chapter 132. With Yang Kang's current strength, normal bullets and rockets wouldn't be able to hurt him. Hearing this, Guo Jutao clenched his teeth. He jumped down from the city wall. Although his words and actions were feminine, he was definitely not feminine when it came to doing things. A genetic martial art had already condensed on his right arm. "No, Dad. Uncle Guo. Don't do it. Dad. You will be fine. Auntie Chen will definitely have a way, she is still waiting for you to go back. Dad. I know Auntie Chen likes you. You can live together when you go back. Dad, you must hold on." However, Yang Kang clenched his teeth. He hissed, "I know my own situation. Guo Jutao, why are you still in a daze? Kill me, now. Do you want me to call you Madame Guo?" Hearing this, Guo Jutao shook his head and said in pain, "Captain, you. Don't worry. I will take care of little Yen for you." Before he finished his words, he suddenly went forward and pulled Yang Kang's daughter to the side. At the same time, his genetic martial art instantly pierced Yang Kang's head. It instantly exploded on Yang Kang's head. Yang Kang's huge headless corpse fell to the ground. "Dad," Yang Kang's daughter let out a heart-wrenching scream. This scream reverberated in the empty wilderness. Guo Jiutao, who was at the side, helplessly retracted his genetic martial art. He felt that his legs were going soft. Even in his dreams, he had never imagined that he would one day kill his former captain with his own hands. The corpse hunters and soldiers on the city wall were all moved by this. However, at this moment, tens of tentacles grew out of Yang Kang's badly mutilated head. These tentacles quickly intertwined like needles and threads, quickly stitching his head together. After the stitching, the head looked even uglier. However, at the next moment, Yang Kang's blood-red eyes suddenly opened. He then opened his mouth and let out a shocking roar. Roar! Roar! He immediately pounced on his daughter who was closest to him. In just an instant, he pushed his daughter to the ground. He opened his huge mouth and bit his daughter's neck. Yang Kang's daughter's eyes were filled with tears as she shook her head. Dad! When Yang Kang heard the word Dad, he was stunned. His scarlet eyes seemed to have cleared up a little. However, this clear and turbid gaze was constantly alternating. Yang Kang's last shred of rationality wanted to suppress the bloodthirsty desire in his heart. A moment later, his last shred of rationality finally gained the upper hand. Seeing his daughter beneath him, he was shocked. He hurriedly jumped back 100 meters. Then, he shook his head in pain and used his last bit of reason to suppress the bloodthirsty desire in his heart. He turned around and fled into the wilderness. Since even genetic martial arts couldn't kill him, he could only stay away from his daughter. The further he was away from his daughter, the safer she would be. At this moment, a female voice came from the city gate. Yang Kang. Yang Kang stopped in his tracks. He turned around to look. Dr. Chen hurried over. In Yang Kang's eyes, clarity and turbidity alternated for a moment, and clarity once again took the upper hand. He didn't turn around and only let out a roar that was closer to that of a beast. Take good care of little Yen. Then, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He jumped and ran into the wilderness. At the city gate, Dr. Chen hugged little Yen tightly. Both of them couldn't stop their tears from flowing down. 5 days later, Immortal had already arrived at your province. The dragon ruins was not far away. Over the past 5 days, Immortal had killed a lot of monsters along the way. His evolution points were gradually approaching 100 million. However, after arriving here, he didn't directly go to the dragon ruins. He had just arrived and didn't know what the situation was like. Although his dragon will could detect up to 50 kilometers away, the mother nest Sanguisurincus could also detect up to 50 kilometers away. However, he was cautious by nature and naturally wouldn't go to the dragon ruins casually. There was a base more than 200 kilometers to the west of the dragon ruins. Base C-10. Immortal planned to go to base C-10 first to inquire about the situation at the dragon ruins. However, when he was 200 kilometers away from base C-10, he used his dragon will to sweep across. He ran around the base 4 times. He cleared out all the zombies and mutated beasts within 200 kilometers of the base. There were a lot more zombies around base C-10 compared to the other bases, and they were also a lot stronger. Normal zombies only accounted for 50% of the zombies. Mutated zombies accounted for 40%, and strong mutated zombies accounted for 10%. Therefore, after Immortal swept through the base 4 times, he obtained a lot more evolution points than before. He had actually reached 150 million. In the evening, Immortal used Dragon Shadow Step to enter base C-10 without being discovered by any of the guards. There were more than 100,000 people in base C-10, so it was normal for the pedestrians to not know each other. Immortal walked on the road, but no one came to question him. He wandered around base C-10 for more than half an hour. Immortal realized that base C-10 had a lot more zombie hunters, and psychokinesis than the other bases. Out of 10 people walking on the road, 5 or 6 of them were zombie hunters. Based on this, base C10 should be the strongest among all the bases. However, Mo Shi could see the despair on everyone's face. He understood after thinking about it. The mutated beasts and zombies around base C10 were also a lot stronger than the other bases. If he didn't clear out those zombies and mutated beasts, it wouldn't be long before the zombies and mutated beasts attacked this place. Mo Shi planned to find an ordinary person to activate his telekinesis, and then ask about the nearby situation. At this time, a voice came from a faraway alley. "Little bastard, you dare to steal food in the cafeteria, how dare you?" Then, the sound of messy footsteps could be heard. Mo Shi used his telekinesis to investigate. He saw a boy of about 10 years old with tattered clothes and messy hair running towards him. His two dirty hands each held a steamed bun. As he ran, he took a big bite of the steamed bun. Behind him was a middle-aged man wearing a dirty apron who quickly chased after him. The middle-aged man's speed was very fast, he could cross 10 meters in one step. He should be a level 1 zombie hunter. In base C10, even the people who cooked in the cafeteria were zombie hunters. The middle-aged man arrived behind the child in a few steps. He grabbed the child's collar with one hand and lifted him into the air. "Little bastard, the leader of the base has given the order. The base is short of food, now the adults get 2 steamed buns a day, and the children get 1 steamed bun a day. Do you want to die?" As he spoke, he reached out to snatch the steamed bun in the child's hand. The child said vaguely, "The adults get 2 steamed buns a day, why do you get 6? I saw it." As he spoke, he quickly opened his mouth and took a bite of the other steamed bun. The chef saw that the child had taken a bite of both steamed buns, and the steamed buns were full of black claw marks. He couldn't help but be furious. "Damn it, you're so stubborn. I'll slap you to death." As he spoke, he swung his right hand and was about to slap the child's face. However, at this moment, he felt as if a huge invisible hand had suddenly grabbed him. He was thrown far away. He was thrown 70 to 80 meters away and immediately fainted. The child was thrown to the ground and looked back. He saw the unconscious chef 70 to 80 meters away. He couldn't help but be stunned. What the hell? Chapter 133. However, he couldn't care less right now. He quickly took a bite of the steamed bun, got up, and fled into the distance. Just as he turned the corner in front of him, he bumped into someone. Bang! He seemed to have hit a wall and fell backward to the ground. He rubbed his sore nose and quickly grabbed the steamed bun on the ground with his other hand. He didn't blow away the dust on it and just took big bites. After taking 2 bites, he looked at the person he had bumped into. It was a young man in his 20s. He was looking at him calmly. The child was stunned. This young man looked different from everyone else in the base. As for what was different, he couldn't tell. In short, he was very special. This was because he was too young and naturally couldn't sense the difference in the person who came. If he was a few years older, he would know that the person who came was different from the others in the base. He didn't have a trace of despair. Instead, he was calm, quiet, and aloof from worldly affairs. The person who came was naturally Mo Shi. He looked at the child with messy hair and tattered clothes and asked, "Where are your parents?" The child looked away from Mo Shi. He picked up another steamed bun. He took a bite and answered vaguely, "They're all dead." He said it very casually, as if he was talking about someone else. Mo Shi asked again, "What's your name?" The child ate too quickly and choked. He beat his chest hard and said after a while, "I don't have a name. Others call me Brat, and some call me Brat." Mo Shi didn't say anything else. He activated his dragon's will and probed into the child's brain, stimulating his brain cells. The child only felt his head heat up and swell. In just over a minute, the feeling of heat and swelling disappeared. At this moment, he felt his mind clear and his eyes clear. Everything within a radius of 700 meters was as if he was seeing it with his own eyes. He could even see the trace of blood at the corner of the unconscious chef's mouth on the other side of the corner. Immortal said, "You're already at level 7 psychokinesis." With his current dragon's will, he could easily activate an ordinary person into level 7 psychokinesis. Of course, he had used this move on Happy before. But for some unknown reason, Happy still did not show any reaction. At that moment, the child looked at Immortal in disbelief. "I'm a psychic? Are you bragging?" At this moment, a dignified and unquestionable voice sounded in his mind. "Answer whatever I ask." The voice echoed in his mind like a thunderclap. His entire body couldn't help but tremble, and he hurriedly stood solemnly. He said respectfully, "All right." Immortal asked, "How many hunters, corpse hunters, and psychokinesis do you have in your base?" The child answered, "There are 373 hunters, more than 30,000 hunters, and 125 psychokinesis." Hearing this, Immortal thought to himself that this was indeed the case. Immortal asked again. 200 kilometers to the east of your base, there is a Fan's Pure Mountain. Who in your base knows the situation there best? The child replied, "I know Brahma's Pure Mountain the best." Immortal was a little surprised. Logically speaking, he had used the leader's will on the child, so the child would definitely not lie to him. But he was only a 10-year-old child, how could he possibly understand the situation over there the best? The child continued. "Although I have never been to Brahma's Pure Mountain, I hang around the corpse hunter group every day, and I often hear them talk about Brahma's Pure Mountain. According to them, there is something very strange there." Immortal nodded and said, "Go on." The child continued. "They said that there are blood-red vines growing on the mountain within a radius of more than 100 kilometers. The entire Brahma's Pure Mountain has become a blood-red mountain. There are also powerful mutated zombies and mutated beasts around Brahma's Pure Mountain. There are even many powerful mutated beasts and zombies." Immortal asked, "Are there super mutated zombies?" The child replied, "I don't know." Immortal nodded, took out 2 pieces of fresh bread, and said to the child, "Eat this. Go to the corpse hunter group tomorrow and ask about Brahma's Pure Mountain." The child's eyes lit up when he saw the fresh bread. He had only seen bread once in his life in the base. At that time, he saw the corpse hunter group eating from afar, but he didn't know what it was. He took the bread excitedly and said to Immortal, "Thank you. Thank you." He ate it in big bites. In the next 2 days, Immortal activated 5 more people into level 7 psychokinesis. Among the 5 people, one was the deputy staff officer of the base. He learned a lot about Brahma's Pure Mountain from them. There should be a virus hive in Brahma's Pure Mountain. There was indeed a powerful mutated zombie that was far beyond level 10 around the virus hive. Immortal was sure that it was the level 3 super mutated zombie. After knowing this, he had a rough idea. That afternoon, he left base C-10. With his strength, no one in base C-10 could discover that he had left. He left base C-10 and went to Brahma's Pure Mountain. Along the way, the trees and plants gradually turned blood red. He killed a lot of mutated zombies and mutated beasts along the way. After more than 10 minutes, he finally arrived at the foot of Brahma's Pure Mountain. He looked with his blood demon eyes. He saw the corpse aura on the mountain as if it was about to solidify. However, this corpse aura didn't make him feel scared. He put away his blood demon eyes and saw that all the trees on the mountain were covered with blood-red vines. The 10,000 steps cloud ladder that went up the mountain was also covered with blood vines that were as thick as an arm. When Immortal arrived, these Sanguisurincus were like thousands of snakes, crawling toward Immortal. If it was before, Immortal could only fly. But now, his long way spread out. The Sanguisurincus suddenly withered and fell to the ground. Mo ran up the 10,000-step ladder. He didn't fly. His flying speed was only about 300 meters per second, which was much slower than his dragon's shadow step. Moreover, there was no cover in the sky. If he encountered a sudden attack, he wouldn't be able to dodge. It was safer to walk on the ground. As he ran up, there were naturally many strong zombies and mutated beasts blocking his way. There were no ordinary zombies on Brahma's pure mountain. Even the weakest ones were mutated zombies. However, for Mo, he could get more evolution points this way. He went all the way up the mountain. Wherever the dragon thought passed, all the mutated zombies and mutated beasts would explode into a bloody mist. With his current strength as a level 3 Great Hunter and level 1 Long Nian, there was nothing on Brahma's pure mountain that could stop him. In just more than 10 minutes, he had reached the top of the mountain. There were 2 peaks on the top of the mountain. The tallest one was 94 meters high. It was tall and straight, like a huge stone pillar that rose from the ground. This was the Red Cloud Golden Peak. Chapter 134. At this time, the top of the Red Cloud Golden Peak was covered by blood-red vines. The road above the Red Cloud Golden Peak was almost vertical. It would take a lot of effort for ordinary people to climb up. Mo used the Dragon Shadow Step and reached the top of the Golden Peak in one step. In the center of the Golden Peak, there was a huge crack that divided the Golden Peak into 2 from top to bottom. There was a small temple on each side, one for Sakyamuni and the other for Maitreya. They were connected by a bridge in the middle. Legend had it that this Golden Peak was originally a complete stone pillar. Sakyamuni and Maitreya both wanted to use it as a place of cultivation. The 2 Buddhas couldn't agree, so they went to the heavenly palace to complain. The Jade Emperor couldn't decide, so in the end, he used a golden saber to divide the Golden Peak into 2, and the 2 Buddhas each took half. However, at base C2, the old monk said that the stone pillar was a dragon-suppressing nail. Mo didn't believe it when he heard it. But now he was somewhat convinced. He took out the map from his backpack and looked at it carefully. At the same time, he used his dragon sense to scan a radius of 50 kilometers. The terrain within 50 kilometers was similar to what was drawn on the map. The dragon ruins should be on this Brahma's pure mountain. Putting away the map, Mo focused his gaze on the top of the mountain. The entire top of the mountain did look like a dragon's back. Below the Red Cloud Golden Peak was like a dragon's head. Below the old Golden Peak, opposite the Red Cloud Golden Peak, was like a dragon's back. The 2 golden peaks were the dragon-suppressing nail. In the middle of the 2 golden peaks, there was a temple. It was the Chenzhen Temple. It seemed that the Chenzhen Temple was also to suppress the plague dragon. However, at this time, the entire outer wall of the Chenzhen Temple was covered with Sanguisurincus. Above the Chenzhen Temple, there were dozens of huge sarcomas with a diameter of 10 meters. Every sarcoma was pulsing rhythmically. The entire Chenzhen Temple had been occupied by the virus and became a virus hive. Mo used the flesh and blood of the zombies he just killed to condense a virus clone. He had the clone run toward the virus hive. The clone came near the hive and jumped onto the sarcoma on top of the hive. It slowly sank into the sarcoma and entered the hive. Inside the mother nest, the entire Chenzhen Temple had been hollowed out, forming a huge blood pool. In the blood pool, there were dozens of powerful mutant zombies. They all looked like monks. These strong mutated zombies, after absorbing the blood from the blood pool, all of them grew to over 80 meters in height. They looked like giant blood-colored Buddhas. Their strength had reached the limit of level 10 strong mutant zombies. He was only one step away from becoming a super mutant zombie. However, in the end, he was still one step away. The virus clone used its psychokinesis to scan the area. SSSSS, rip, rip, all of the level 10 mutant zombies were torn into pieces. One must know that Mo Shi's virus clone had already reached level 10 psychokinesis. Dealing with these level 10 mutated zombies was like playing around. But at this moment, waves of blood began to rumble within the blood pool. The entire blood pool seemed to have become extremely unstable. A moment later, a human silhouette slowly emerged from the rolling waves of blood. This human silhouette did not have any skin on its body. The bloody flesh was exposed to the air. Its facial features also looked somewhat distorted. This corpse was the level 3 super mutant zombie that Mo Shi had seen in the mother nest's consciousness before. However, with the addition of the blood pool in the mother nest, its current combat power was close to that of a level 5 super mutant zombie. Facing Mo Shi's virus clone, its fists continuously pounded its bloody chest, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. At the same time, it roared, roar, roar, a shockwave visible to the naked eye was suddenly emitted from its mouth. It spread towards the virus clone. The virus clone hurriedly used Dragon Shadow Step to dodge. With one step, it stepped behind the super mutant zombie. Then, a genetic weapon appeared and directly slashed towards the back of the super mutant zombie. However, at this moment, his genetic weapon was directly grabbed by the super mutant zombie with one hand. It grabbed so accurately, as if this super mutant zombie had eyes at the back of its head. Looking up, Mo Shi could not help but be stunned. Didn't this guy have a face at the back of his head? In other words, this super mutant zombie had a face at the front and back. This super mutant zombie roared, "Lowly human, pitiful reptile, today I'll use your blood to replenish the blood pool." As it spoke, its hands suddenly tore. Rip, the body of the virus clone was directly torn into two halves. In the blood pool, dozens of tentacles suddenly stretched out, greedily devouring the flesh and blood of the virus clone. Mo Shi could also be considered to have experienced the feeling of being torn apart from the side. After the super mutant zombie tore the virus clone, it jumped out of the mother nest. On its back, a pair of huge demon wings slowly spread out. With a slight flap of its wings, it instantly covered more than 300 meters. It arrived in front of Mo Shi on the red cloud gold roof. It did not immediately make a move. Instead, it sized up Mo Shi from head to toe and let out a roar from its throat, "Lowly human, I haven't gone to find you yet, and you actually delivered yourself to me. Then, prepare to die." As it spoke, its right arm made a crackling sound and turned into a 100-meter-long sharp blade, directly slashing down towards Mo Shi. The huge sharp blade drew a semicircular arc in the air. Facing this guy whose strength was comparable to a level 5 super mutant zombie, Mo Shi did not dare to be negligent. With a light tap of his feet, he activated the Dragon Shadow Step. His figure instantly retreated 10 kilometers. The next moment, boom, the entire red cloud gold roof, which was more than 90 meters tall, suddenly collapsed under the zombie's blade. The super mutant zombie missed its attack and roared. Flapping its wings, it chased towards Mo Shi. However, just as it chased for more than 300 meters, suddenly, its expression changed drastically. The next moment, it retracted its wings. It instantly dived down towards the mother nest. Soon, it arrived at the top of the mother nest. It raised its arms abruptly. At the same time, the thousands of sanguisurincus around the mother nest, which were as thick as thighs, also rose instantly, forming a sanguisurincus shell, protecting the mother nest. Just at the moment when the sanguisurincus shell formed, boom, an invisible dragon's will meteorite fell from the sky. It smashed down fiercely. Boom, the entire sanguisurincus shell was instantly shattered. Thousands of broken vines flew hundreds of meters away in all directions. A huge blood-red shockwave spread out. The blood-red trees around the broodmother's nest snapped one after another. Dragon's will meteorite. Mo sure knew that with the strength of this zombie, it was very likely that it would be able to dodge his dragon's will meteorite. But it was alive, and the mother nest, although it was also alive, it could not move. So Mo sure's dragon's will meteorite directly smashed towards the mother nest. The mother nest was the foundation of all zombies. This super mutant zombie had to be saved, so it could only use its body to withstand the dragon's will meteorite. At the top of the mother nest, the body of the super mutant zombie was pressed down, making cracking sounds. But it relied on the cushioning power of the Sanguisurincus shell to withstand the telekinesis meteorite. However, the dozen sarcomas under its feet were shattered by the huge impact. Blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, its arms were also broken by the huge impact with a crack. Dozens of tentacles grew on its body. These tentacles quickly supported the top of its head. Thousands of tentacles stretched out from the blood pool in the mother nest. Together with him, they supported the invisible dragon's will meteorite above its head. Then, it turned its head and roared angrily in the direction of Mo sure. "Despicable human, I will tear you to pieces." However, its roar was only halfway through when it abruptly stopped. As if its neck was being strangled. Its grayish-white eyes were filled with fear as if it had seen a demon from hell. Chapter 135. The super mutant zombie let out an angry roar from its throat. This human was too despicable. He didn't dare to confront it head-on, so he sneakily attacked the nest. However, its roar was only halfway out before it stopped abruptly. Because it saw that the human was floating in the air. His right arm was stretched out, and his right hand was empty. It was as if he was waiting for someone to give him a weapon. The entire Brahma's Pure Mountain, and even within a radius of 10 kilometers around Brahma's Pure Mountain. All the zombies and mutant beasts had been killed. Their bodies exploded into a bloody mist that eventually stained the grass, the tree trunks, and the ground. However, at this moment, the blood seemed to be attracted by something. It slowly floated up into the sky. If someone was here at this time, they would see the phenomenon of the rain flying backward into the sky. However, this rain was blood-red rain. The blood rain flew into the sky. Finally, it all gathered in Mo sure's empty right hand. In his right hand, the blood water slowly condensed into a substance. The outline of a long spear gradually appeared. Finally, it slowly condensed. The entire spear was about 3 meters long and completely blood-red. On the body of the spear, there were protrusions that looked like dragon claws. On both sides of the spear head, there were sharp blades in the shape of dragon wings. The sharp blades flashed coldly under the sun. The entire spear head was in the shape of a fist-sized dragon head. There were dozens of sharp barbs on the dragon head. The pair of dragons was so red that it could drip blood. Coupled with the sharp dragon teeth, it was exceptionally ferocious. The demon-devouring dragon spear. Finally, it was born again. And this time, the demon-devouring dragon spear gathered the blood of millions of infected people. Just the mighty long way emitted from the spear body caused all the Sanguisurincus in the entire Brahma's Pure Mountain and within a radius of 50 kilometers to wither instantly. Even the super mutant zombie that had reached the combat strength of level 5 couldn't help but feel fear under the mighty long way. The tentacles beside it that were supporting the dragon meteorite quietly retracted into the nest at this time. Mo sure held the blood-red demon-devouring dragon spear in his hand, and his cold eyes were covered with a layer of blood-red color, like an ancient demon god. At a certain moment, the dragon spear in his hand suddenly stabbed out. The demon-devouring dragon spear turned into a blood-red dragon. The dragon was 1,000 meters long. His wings were like the clouds in the sky. This pair of sharp claws was actually comparable to the red cloud golden dome from before. The scales on the blood-red dragon were distinct. Above the sunlight, there was a blood-red glow. The dragon head was like a small mountain. The huge mouth opened like a cave. It retracted its wings and swooped down. He charged straight for the mother nest. Even the super mutant zombie whose battle power had reached level 5 was filled with fear at this time. At a certain moment, he forcefully pushed the dragon-will meteorite away. He then turned around and fled into the distance. In the eyes of zombies, the mother nest was like their mother. Now, this super mutant zombie had abandoned the nest and escaped alone. It could be seen how much psychological pressure the giant dragon was exerting on him. However, could he escape? The 1,000-meter-long dragon swooped down. A pair of front claws grabbed the nest. Rumble, the entire Fan's Pure Mountain, which was more than 2,000 meters high, seemed to shake. The entire mother nest, along with the mountain ridge beneath it, was crushed. Countless boulders rolled down along the mountain ridge. As for the super mutant zombie, it was directly torn into two under this claw. The corpse was thrown far away. Ordinary super mutant zombies, with the support of the blood pool, could quickly recover even if their heads were blown up. But the demon-devouring dragon spear had a strong restraining effect on viruses. This super mutant zombie's body was torn into two parts, and its head was still intact, but it could not be restored. Before it died, it let out another roar. "The king will not let you go." In the distance, the old golden dome shook twice under this violent vibration. Finally, it collapsed. The giant dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky. In an instant, it disappeared above the sea of clouds in the distance. Only a shocking dragon roar was left. Roar. Within 100 kilometers, all the zombies and mutant beasts were terrified when they heard this dragon roar. They lay on the ground, shivering. Until now, Mosher slowly landed on the top of the mountain that had become a ruin. Even he was shocked by the power of the demon-devouring dragon spear. The demon-devouring dragon spear, which condensed the flesh and blood of millions of zombies, almost overturned the entire mountain peak with one claw. The power of the demon-devouring dragon spear was terrifying. But that super mutant zombie, with the support of the blood pool, was also quite strong. It could force him to use the demon-devouring dragon spear. Fortunately, he had taken care of that guy now. If there was anyone in the whole of Wuxia who could pose a threat to him, it would probably be the king. He did not know what the king's strength was. But from some of the information obtained from the mother nest, it was definitely a super mutant zombie that did not exceed level 10. With Mosher's strength, which was equivalent to a level 5 super mutant zombie, it would not be long before even if the king came, there was no need to be afraid of it. At this time, Mosher used the dragon's will to explore the ruins of the mother nest. He saw that there was indeed a crack hidden in the ruins of the mother nest. Mosher came to the entrance of the crack. He used the dragon's will to explore. It was still dark below. But through the dragon's will, it was not a narrow passage like the previous dragon's ruins. The bottom of the crack was empty. Under the dragon's will, it seemed that the entire Brahma's Pure Mountain, which was more than 2,000 meters high, was hollow. There did not seem to be any danger inside. But he did not go down immediately. Instead, he used his mind to directly place the virtual sentry tower under the crack. What if there was danger that the dragon's will could not detect? After the virtual sentry tower was set up, there was no alarm sound. Mosher condensed another virus clone. He let the clone jump down into the crack. He observed the entire huge cave through the clone's perspective. He saw that this huge cave was about 1,000 meters long. It was 700 to 800 meters wide. On the top of the cave, there were stalactites of various shapes hanging upside down. On the ground, there were large pieces of stone. If one looked carefully, they would find that these were not ordinary stones. Each piece contained the bones of an animal. Obviously, these were all fossils. If all the stones were connected, the entire fossil could be pieced together to form a skeleton fossil about 1,000 meters long. Although the fossilized skeleton seemed to be incomplete in many places, it was still not complete. But one could roughly see the overall shape. A huge skull, ribs, a tail bone that was hundreds of meters long, and a few claw bones. There was also a pair of huge wing bones. Giant dragon fossil. Even though Mosher was only seeing all of this through the virus clone's perspective, he was extremely shocked. There really were giant dragons in the world. And their bodies had actually reached 1,000 meters long. The head of the giant dragon skeleton fossil was pierced through by a huge stalactite that was more than 300 meters long and more than 10 meters thick. The heart was also pierced through by a huge stalactite. According to the position of these two stalactites, they were below the Red Cloud Golden Peak and the Old Golden Peak. It seemed that the dragon-subduing mountain, dragon-suppressing nail, that the old monk had mentioned was actually true. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.